Hello?
Yes.
This is Latrice Kibler.
Hello, yes, we just ask that you keep yourself on mute. The meeting will start shortly. And then once you are called, we'll go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raymond Skinner, and I'm chairperson of the Board of Directors of the DC Housing Authority Stabilization and Reform Board. And I now call this meeting to order. So I want to welcome you to this, which is the first meeting of the Stabilization and Reform Board. It's being held today, January 25th, 2023. This meeting is being held via WebEx video conferencing, and the board is here in person. The time is now 1 o'clock exactly. So I'd like to start by asking us to bow our heads and just take a moment of silence. Thank you. So first I want to say we've invited members of the public to sign up to speak via our website, or those of you who would just like to join the meeting, you can do so live via the DHCD website link to the Facebook Live. The board welcomes input on matters of public concern and offers you today an opportunity to express your views during the public testimony portion of this meeting. However, we require that members of the public who attend our meetings abide by certain rules of decorum to allow the board to complete the business for it. For this virtual meeting, DHCD asks that you remain muted until you are instructed to speak and that you do not use the chat to comment when it is not your turn to speak. Members of the public should not engage in any disruptive conduct or loud, threatening, or abusive language during the meetings. This includes any loud outbursts or shouting during times when you have not been asked to speak. Anyone who violates these rules will be removed from the virtual meeting. Serious or repeated violations of the rules may result in your being barred from speaking at future meetings. We appreciate your interest in the matters before us today and thank you in advance for abiding by these rules of conduct. At this time, I want to ask for a roll call to determine that we have a quorum.
Sure, Chairman. For clarification, this is DC Housing Authority. And so I'm going to call all of the commissioners that are present. If you can please announce yourself whether you're present or not. Melissa Lee. Present. Denise Blackson. Present. Katrina Jones. Present. Ronnie Harris. Present. Teresa Silla. Teresa Silla. I can come back. Leroy Clay.
Present.
Rosa Burbridge.
Present.
Chris Murphy.
Present.
Jim Dickerson.
Present.
Jennifer Reed.
Present.
And Chairman Raymond Skinner.
Present.
Chairman, you have 11 commissioners present. You may proceed.
Thank you very much.
I can come back. Teresa Sella. So I'm sorry. So you have 10 commissioners present. You may proceed. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. So again, my name is Ray Skinner, and once again, I want to welcome everyone to the inaugural meeting of the DC Housing Authority Stabilization and Reform Board. And I'm certainly honored to have been asked to be the chairperson of this board. As you may know, this board was put in place as a result of legislation passed by the DC Council and signed by the mayor in December of last year. The board consists of 9 voting members and 2 non-voting ex officio members. We each have a term of 2 years, and towards the end of that time frame, we are being required to recommend to the mayor and council on the makeup of a permanent successor board. While you will see some changes in the way this boards operate compared to the previous board, we will keep some of the same procedures in place. For example, the board will continue to meet on the second Wednesday of the month, although this meeting is off schedule due to the logistics of getting all the new board members sworn in and getting everything organized. We will also during this year start having in-person meetings, and we also hope to meet at some of our housing developments. There will also be some changes to the committee structures and the committee meeting dates, and all of that information will be posted on our website. And for those of you who've attended other meetings, you know, they tended to sometimes last for quite a bit of time. So I want to try to make our meetings a little shorter than they have been previously. But the primary charge of this board, which we're referring to as the STAR Board, is really to oversee the remediation of the findings identified in the November 22 HUD report. While the HUD findings are certainly troubling, they also present us an opportunity. It's an opportunity to identify and correct deficiencies through new and updated policies, procedures, and programs. Director Donnell and her team have already developed a work plan to address the HUD findings and are implementing various aspects of that plan, even as we sit here today. The board will see some of the results of this work in the form of updated policies that we will be asked to approve starting with the February meeting. The board's role is to provide oversight of this work, and we plan to do so in a manner that is focused. And I speak for myself, but I'm sure all the other board members agree, not only focused, but that really adhere to some of our core values like hard work, integrity, transparency, and accountability. But while we are focused on responding to HUD, even more importantly, as we need to continue to improve the day-to-day living conditions for our residents. And we will be holding Director Donnell and her staff accountable for that. I really have high expectations for us moving forward. I expect that in a relatively short time, we will have a high-performing agency, not only in the eyes of HUD, but in the eyes of our residents, our voucher holders, landlords, and to the community at large. So I am really energized about the possibilities, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and do the hard work to really turn this agency around. So before going any further, I want to just go around the room and have each of the new STAR board members to introduce themselves and say a few words. And we'll start with Commissioner Blackson, sitting right next to me.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Commissioner Denise Blackson, and I look forward to building a rapport with the residents as a DCHA family commissioner.
Good afternoon, I'm Katrina Jones, and I'm looking forward to utilizing my skills and my knowledge to help the Housing Authority address the HUD findings in that report.
Good afternoon, I'm Chris Murphy. In my day job, I work at Georgetown University, but have a fairly extensive experience working for city government and federal government, and really excited to be with you all, and most importantly, to work with you all to get the Housing Authority to the place that we all want it to be.
I am Jim Dickerson, and I'm a resident of DC for over 50 years. And I'm the founder of MANA Incorporated, a affordable housing nonprofit organization here in the city. Also the pastor of New Community Church at 6th and S Street. And I'm very, very grateful to be on this board and to be serving and to be working toward the common goals that we all have here. So thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Melissa Lee, and I am honored to be able to return to the board, to the STAR Board. And I'm looking forward to continuing the work with Executive Donnell and staff, and really digging in and rolling up our sleeves to remediate the HUD report findings and really get us on track to serve the residents.
Hi, my name is Leroy Clay. I am an ex officio non-voting member of the board. I am the DC government Office of the Chief Financial Officer designee to the board. I am honored to be able to serve and looking forward to working with everyone to bring forth a lot of success. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Reed. I am Mayor Bowser's Director of the Office of Budget and Performance Management, in which I am also appointed to this board in that capacity. I look forward to being back here on the board after having served in a different capacity many, many years ago, and look forward to working with the chairman, Director Donald, and her team, not only to remediate the findings in the HUD report, but also to make the Housing Authority the leader in the nation on providing safe, decent, and affordable housing to our residents. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ronnie Harris. I am also a returning commissioner, and I am delighted to be on the new board that has been assigned to continue to do good and best work. I'm looking forward to the months and days ahead.
Good afternoon. I am Commissioner Rosa Burbridge and also a proud resident of DC Housing Authority. I'm looking forward to working with Executive Director Donald, this fantastic board, to let our voice be heard, create a partnership, have accountability, and be a liaison for what is best for the residents. I appreciate and I thank you for this opportunity.
And Commissioner Silla?
Good afternoon. I am Teresa Silla, the Executive Director of the Interagency Council on Homelessness. And prior to this role, in other roles, I have experience with underwriting and managing affordable housing projects and supporting by providing HUD technical assistance for affordable housing and community planning and development. So I am eager to leverage my expertise both at the Interagency Council on Homelessness and also my prior experience in affordable housing and development to the benefit of this board. My apologies that I am not able to attend in person. I am not feeling well, and although I have confirmation that it's not COVID, I thought it prudent to stay at home at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I want to again thank all of the members of the board for agreeing to serve. And as you've heard, we are ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work and really turn this agency around. So we have a special guest who's coming to the meeting to say a few words. I'm not going to say who that is yet, but I'll introduce him when he gets here. It is a him. I'll introduce him when he gets here. But while we're waiting, I'm going to ask Director Donald to say a few words.
Great. Thank you so much, Chair, and welcome to our new STAR board members. My team and I are really excited to embark on this journey with you. We have a lot of work to do, and I appreciate everyone's commitment and willingness to serve and to join us in moving this agency forward. So as you've heard, and some of you know, that today's inaugural meeting is different than our usual course of business, right? So normally all of the resolutions coming before the board go through committees first. But as you know, the STAR Board's committee structure was just established in the annual meeting that we just had. So we're making those adjustments. And normally we don't have 10 resolutions on the agenda, but we do have some critical issues that we need to move forward. And so today's agenda is a little more crowded than normal. Also, I normally present an executive director's report. It's typically in a deck or a PowerPoint that to update you on major projects and resident engagement activities. We are also working on a more substantive dashboard with key metrics for each of our program areas, and I'm really excited to incorporate that into the regular report. It's probably going to be a couple of months because we're still refining a lot of data, and the initial dashboards will be a little spotty with the data, but I think they will be more in line with the issues that the board will need to be kept abreast of, and will help you to hold us accountable for progress. And also, as you, from everyone who has done the HUD Leading the Way training, know that there's a lot in your fiduciary roles that you need to be on top of. So we'll be moving forward in that direction. But right now I wanted to just give you an update on our progress with the HUD report and other priorities. And that will be a standing feature of my monthly reports to update you on where we are with our HUD corrective action plans. And I do want to make this point. This agency is not just about complying with HUD, and several of you have said that. I know the HUD report, it certainly is very prominent in our lives here at the agency. And we are driving towards meeting compliance with the many, many findings and recommendations from that report. But our priorities are to deliver safe, affordable, decent housing for our residents and to serve the over 20,000 housing choice voucher residents that we have, and to do quality developments that are integrated within our communities. So you will hear me talk about HUD compliance activities. Our big priorities go way beyond that. So in our annual meeting this morning, the board created an ad hoc committee to work with staff on the HUD report, and that is led by Commissioner Lee with several other members, including our chair on that committee. And we'll be scheduling an update to bring everybody up to speed, and that committee specifically about exactly where we are with all of our HUD deliverables. So earlier we had a meeting with HUD in December to walk through our response and to get their immediate feedback, which was a very, very productive all-day session. Commissioner Lee was there in the morning, and we really got into very specific details about what HUD wants and needs in addition to how we've responded. But good news is that immediately we got closure, as HUD calls it, on 7 of the findings. So we're making progress. So just so you'll know, they closed out, meaning that we satisfied the requirements on the PET policy. That's in the public housing category, and procurement, the hotels and delegation of authority findings, and finance, vehicles, and department reorganization. And then for repositioning, and these are the categories of the HUD report: resident engagement and a board member concern. So we got a long way to go, but we were pleased that we could immediately check off those items. At the end of January, which is next week, we are required to provide an update to HUD on a monthly basis that shows our progress on each of the items. We will also be sharing that with the board. So it's a spreadsheet. It goes item by item. It tells you exactly where we are, what we have to do, the timelines, all of that. And so I'll invite the board to give us feedback. If you find that useful, you can also summarize and give other reports. We're going to make sure that you have access to that information. The revisions to the agency's procurement policy are underway, and this is an important, the first item under the HUD report that we will be asking the board to vote on in February. So that will be coming to the board hopefully by the end of this week, so you can have some nice weekend reading. And the Administration and Operations Committee will be reviewing the procurement policy at a meeting that we are hoping to schedule for next week ahead of the February 8th board meeting. Also prescribed by HUD as part of our procurement reform, HUD asked us to engage in something called integrity monitoring, which basically is kind of a sampling audit review of certain contracts to determine whether or not we are complying with the laws. And even though we don't have an approved procurement policy, and I want to just make this very clear to our board, we do operate in accordance with local and federal laws in terms of our procurement practices. So, but the policy now will catch up, and the board, hopefully will approve that, and we will meet those requirements. So that is the first item that's coming. There are most of the other items in the HUD report fall into 3 big buckets. We have what's called the MTW, you all will hear, and I will try to avoid as many acronyms as possible, but that one you'll hear often enough, you might as well get used to it. It is called Moving to Work. It is basically a federal waiver that we operate under, that the agency was able to qualify for some years ago. It gives us certain flexibilities in the terms of the ways that we operate under HUD guidelines. That's the big overarching plan that we operate under. And then we have two main policy procedural entities or bodies that govern our work. The administrative plan is primarily for over a housing choice voucher. So this is all, these are the shortest cuts I'm going to give you in terms of any acronyms and how you can think about things. So we talk about the admin plan, that's housing choice voucher. So that governs policies, procedures, trainings, all of the requirements that fall under that plan. And then the ACOP, which is for public housing. So those are our two main areas of work. And if you think about the HUD report, they pretty much roll up into one of those plans. So when we come to the board, we will be coming to the board with those packages for board review and approval to meet most of all of the HUD requirements. So this is really, really important. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be dense. Those also require regulations. So they have to be posted. And so there's a whole timeline for those. So the board won't actually vote on those until April. And we'll be bringing them forward and briefing you on those. So I just want to give you a heads up that that's how the whole thing is structured. And as we do our updates and ask the board, that's what we'll be coming forward. Yes.
The second bucket is what? Tell me that again.
So admin is housing choice voucher programs, and then ACOP, ACOP is for public housing. So MTW is the big umbrella, and then those two is pretty much everything else.
Okay. And the first one is procurement.
Procurement is the first specific action that we're going to ask the board, the policy action. Yes. So I'm going to wrap up quickly, but a few other updates. As I told you, everything that we're doing is not driven by the HUD plan.
Right.
So I just want to be clear. We have two big priorities this year. And then we need everybody around the table, including our council chair who has just joined us, to really understand and support us. And one is to ensure that we increase our occupancy rates at our public housing properties. Much has been written. It's no secret. We are the lowest in the country. There are lots of reasons for that we can talk about at another time. But the reality is that we have high occupancy rates at all of our properties, and that we have been working diligently in the past year to build the muscle to fill those units, which means upgrading the units, doing renovations, but also figuring out how to do the matching. And the way that we fill those units is to bring people off the waiting list. So people have heard about the waiting list that's been frozen for many years. We are unthawing that or thawing it out. 2 weeks ago, we had a major event at the Martin Luther King Library. I shared an article, a rare positive article, but we had over 600 people who came to get update their information so we could determine whether or not they were still qualified and still interested in our public housing. We are still working through that. And again, we will provide the board with updates on where we are with our wait list and our occupancy. But just to put it in perspective, we have in the public housing wait list, we had over 22,000 people last year. We have already moved through 8,000 of those on the list. We have to go in order. Our goal is to get through the whole list. Remember, the list is many, many years old. A lot of people are still not interested or no longer interested in public housing, no longer need public housing, or don't need public housing if they signed up for 20 years ago because their lifestyles have changed. But we have to engage everyone on the list and go through that process. Our goal is to get through that list in the next couple of months and then determine whether or not we can match people up and move them in. And those who are no longer interested, then we'll be able to open up a new wait list and target it for those who we can say, we have X number of units available in these properties, And we will do it in a more, as I said, more targeted way so that I think people who would get on the list would be, say, oh, I'm interested in that housing, rather than have names on a list that we can't meet their needs. So that's part of the strategy for occupancy. That's number one. Number two, and just it's not even in order, but the second priority is maintenance of our properties and improving the quality of life for our residents who live there. That is I think over the years, the Housing Authority has focused more on the longer term redevelopment. That's important, and we're doing that as well. And we're excited to invite you all to groundbreakings, and we're excited about some of our big projects that we're working on, Park Morton and Berry Farm and Kenilworth, that we got shovels in the ground. But we have real people, thousands of them living in public housing in conditions that we're not proud of, and we're not meeting the needs of our people. So we are doing a big surge to improve maintenance on all of our properties within the next 6 months. You have two items before you today to vote on, and those are what we call under the DGS contracts. We'll talk more about those that will help us to accelerate and build the capacity to do this in a way that we couldn't with just our staff and the contracts that we currently have. So we're very excited about that. To move forward. Those things are related, occupancy, maintenance, and meeting all of the HUD requirements. So I think we're looking at a substantially different agency. I'm going to say by June, we're going to look totally different. I mean, and that's going to be a lot of work, require a lot of work from everybody and my dedicated team, but they're excited because they now with the support of the board, with the support of the mayor, with support of the council, and everyone knowing that we have a long way to go, but we have a game plan to get there, and we're going to move there. Just as I wrap up real quickly, there are a couple of things. I always talk about resident engagement activities and on my reports. Next week, we are presenting to our Langston Terrace residents. We're giving them an update on the master planning process we started last year. So I invited all the board members. Councilmember White, I'll send an invitation to you if you're able to come. That will be a good chance. We before have had 40, 50 residents who participated, and I'm sure they would be excited if they know that some board members are coming as well. Also, we just recently were awarded a Choice Neighborhoods planning grant, $500,000 from HUD, yay, for Lincoln Heights. And we'll be kicking that off with a resident engagement and a planning committee coming in the next couple of months. Finally, the legislation that established the STAR Board requires 4 listening sessions throughout the city, and one in each of the 4 quadrants by May. We're working with Commissioner Burbridge in her role as chair of the Citywide Advisory Board to help plan those, and that those listening sessions are for the board, and we'll be obviously going out to the properties and basically having mini town halls. And so we expect that everyone will be able to attend, and we'll work with your schedules, but those will be really important opportunities for you to hear from residents, see our properties, and for residents to hear from you. So with that, I am done with my report, and we'll turn it over to
Thank you very much, Director Donald. I think that was some really good information. And I think, I'm sure the full board looks forward to getting continuous updates and tracking the progress that you're making on moving us forward. Any quick questions for the director?
Just have one or two quick questions, Director Donald, and I think I'm supposed to make sure to say my name every time for the court reporter, so Commissioner Reed. Will you be posting the monthly reports that you'll start to send to HUD on the DCHA website, or do they contain sensitive information that can't be posted?
That's a good question. We have a SharePoint that we've been using to share with our board, but we can do the tracking report that we share to HUD. That doesn't have the sensitive information. So, because we did commit to sharing with the public as well. So thank you for that.
I think that'd be great. And then I wonder, this is maybe a question for both you, Chair and Director, if we could use our committee structure to preview some of the metrics that you discussed For the
Yes,
board, I think
absolutely.
it's really exciting and that might be a way to help you get some feedback quickly.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great, thank you.
Okay, good. So this is Commissioner Skinner speaking. I mentioned earlier that we had a special guest and he has arrived. So I'm really very pleased to be able to introduce Councilmember Robert White. Councilmember Robert White was really instrumental in shaping the legislation that resulted in this board being set up, the Stabilization and Reform Board. And as you probably know, he is also now the chair of the new Housing Committee in the DC Council. So I'm going to ask Councilmember White to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Chairman Skinner, to the board members, Director Donald. I appreciate you letting me join you for a little bit on your first your maiden meeting. I've had the opportunity since I assumed chair of the Housing Committee earlier this month to sit down and meet with Director Donald and separately with Chairman Skinner, and just wanted to sort of be face to face in the same room with you all to, one, express my gratitude for the role that you all are undertaking. It is not an insignificant amount of work. It is a lot of work. It's also very important and meaningful work. And it is work that is being done under scrutiny because of things that have happened over many years, many decades. And so the task of this board is both to help rebuild the public housing stock, but also to help rebuild public trust. That is no small task, but it is one that with your success, there will be a lot of people who are grateful and benefit a great deal. I'm very honored to be chairing the Housing Committee. The role of the committee is really to help support the work that you all are doing to help move our agencies forward. What I think you'll find with us is partnership. And what I would ask of you is with me and the committee, be open, be transparent. There's not anything I think we can't work through together. And I think if we're working together, we're solving problems. The role of the council is different than the role of the board. The role of the board is different than the role of the agency. All of these, though, are critical. And if all of us sort of are doing our best to move things in the right direction, in the same direction, we certainly get there. That doesn't mean that we will agree on everything, doesn't mean that you all will agree with the agency on everything. And so in helping to move the agency forward, that doesn't mean that you don't ask the tough questions, do oversight and challenge. It just means that you do it productively. And that's what you'll find from the committee as well. This is a key time. Really, the work of this board will be the major influence, I think, in what public housing looks like over the next decade. I believe that the right skill sets and mindsets are around the table. So I am incredibly confident and optimistic about the work that you all will do. Call on us as you need. If something doesn't sit right with you, ask the question. I think you will find, as I have found Director Donald to be responsive and open. There are no shortage of challenges. So even after the sort of initial aspects of the work, fade away, continue to remember the people that we all are here to serve. I think that is foremost in the minds of everyone around this table. As the saying says, but for the grace of God, there go I. When I look at folks around the city in public housing or not, I think about myself, my kids, my parents, and I think as long as we humanize the people that we're here to serve, we do good work. And several of you I've had the opportunity to work with in capacities over the years, and I have no doubt about your commitment and ability to do the things that you're charged with doing. Remember that this board doesn't start with a clean slate. There's a lot of scrutiny, again, things that have mounted over the years. And one of the things I found in working with the mayor and others to help shape this board is that the deficit of trust has a real impact in the work that you're doing and your ability to do the work. So we need to be mindful of public trust as we do the work. And as you all gain public trust, what I think you will see is sort of more openness from residents, from the public to say, yeah, let's support what they're doing and not sort of scrutinize it. But we sort of have to turn that corner first. So I think that Director Donald and this board are poised to turn an important corner to do some amazing work. And as I think Director Donald has said, and I agree with, what the agency accomplishes over the next 6 months will have a drastic impact over the next decade of this agency, because as you all undergo looking for a permanent director or another talent to keep in the agency or attract to the agency, people need to believe that it's an agency moving in the right direction. And so everything that sort of gets done, the positive check marks, expand the pool of talent of people who say, you know what, this is the place that I want to go and I want to work. And Director Donald, her successor, others working inside the agency, there's only so much they can do if other talented people don't want to come into the agency. So it is pivotally important. View us as a partner and a resource in this work. We will challenge you from time to time, but it will all be above board. It will be, for the better of the agency. But I believe that all of you and Director Donald are working for the better of the agency as well. So I really want to be here to most importantly say, one, thank you so much for agreeing to do this or serving in this capacity. And two, that I very much look forward to working with you all in whatever way that and the committee. I know the committee stands very ready, as does the full council, to support the work of this board.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Commissioner Skinner again. First of all, I just want to thank you, Councilmember White, for joining us today, and just thank you for your support. I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier, the council member was very helpful in terms of shaping the legislation, and we look forward to working with you and getting the support of the committee. And when it's budget time, we're going to be probably asking for money.
Please do. There's an opportunity here that we shouldn't waste. There's political will and public attention, so let's utilize that.
We appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
So we want to move forward with our agenda now. So we've been talking internally about, and I mentioned earlier about making some changes from the way the previous board worked. And one of the things we want to do going forward is move the public comment period up to the front of the meeting. Unfortunately, today, because we have so many resolutions, we really need to get through those resolutions because they're critical procurements that's going to help us to meet the issues that Director Donald talked about earlier. So for today, we're still going to have the public comments at the end of the meeting. And so we'll try to get through these resolutions as quickly as possible. So there are a total of 10 resolutions, basically three service contracts, a couple of construction contracts, some resolutions dealing with the new market tax credit program, and then a couple of development projects. So I'm going to turn it over now to Director Donald and ask her to go through and initially just brief the board on the resolutions, and then we will go separately on each resolution.
Thank you, Chair. So as the chair said, we have the 10 resolutions, but I think it might be helpful to think of them kind of in categories, right? We have 3 resolutions that are pretty much straightforward procurements and that go through our normal RFP competitive procurement process. And I'm going to say a few words about that just again to give the board comfort that we do have legally binding procurement processes that we follow and we take very, very seriously. But those 3 are the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and engineering services, fire alarm, preventive maintenance and repairs contract, and the security camera and access control preventive maintenance. So those 3 are through our routine competitive procurement process that requires that we have fair, open, and competitive process in accordance with all regulations. To remind this board that every procurement for $250,000 and above has to be approved by the board. So I do have a little authority under that. Not the $1 million that I've had in previous agencies. But this is what this board has. And so anything that's 250,000 and above, we bring to this, to the board, and that's what you have before you in the procurements today. Then we have two contracts that we procured in a slightly different way, even though they all also went through the competitive procurement process, and those are under the DGS consolidated maintenance contracts that will allow us to do the big maintenance surge that I talked about earlier, that we're anxious to get started with. So I'm going to go ahead and go and tee up the resolutions, Mr. Chair, for vote. I forgot the order. I know there were a few residents signed up, and you want to have the board discussion first.
Right,
Okay,
yes.
very good. Okay, so I will put the first item up for board vote is Resolution 2301, which is the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, or as we call it, MEP engineering services. And that resolution will authorize me to approve a 2-year contract for these services, the minimum amount of $500,000 up to a maximum of $2.25 million per contract for an aggregate not to exceed $4.5 million. That again is over the 2 years. That one includes, very essential services, automation, system architectural and engineering services, pre-design, cost estimating, design development, everything that basically allows us to move forward with our mechanical engineering work. That we went through the process last summer leading up to selection of the recommended bidder in January. Towards the end of last year, and now we're bringing it to the board for approval. We are recommending Loring Consulting Engineers and Enginium Group for those contracts. And we submitted materials to the board with background memos and copies of the resolution. So I'll invite,
So
if there are any
questions from the board?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes. All right. So my first question was about the estimate that was included in the background material, the memo. It says that it is a $19 million capital replacement of the HVAC system. So I wanted to know, how was this estimate prepared and who actually prepared it and when?
Okay. We're going to tag team a little bit here. Our VP, who is over our procurement operations, Kimberly Allen, took ill last night and was not able to be here. So she would normally be the one that walks you through the actual procurement, the steps and how we arrived there. But I'm going to ask Lori Bonds to pitch it.
Sure. Good afternoon, Lori Bonds, General Counsel. Commissioner Jones, so what you're referencing is what the memo is referring to as $19 million in capital replacement work for the HVAC systems and $6 million in the comprehensive building rehabilitation.
Correct.
Those are not the actual estimates. So there was a request for an independent cost estimate for the actual work. This is just indicating what the work is supposed to do, and how much work they plan to invest in both the HVAC and the building rehabilitation. But I can be able to make sure we can follow up. Obviously, John Stringfield, if you would please, from the Office of Capital Programs, if you are aware of your team has information that we can be able to provide to obviously the commissioner as far as what our independent cost estimate was, we can be able to do that, but we don't usually include that so that we can be able to have that information for you. This is just giving you background in what work they're anticipating doing and where it's supposed to be, but that's not the actual independent cost estimate.
Okay, so then I have a follow-up question, right? And it basically is that if OCP's plan is to implement a $19 million capital replacement of the HVAC work, This request is for only $4.5 million for a 3-year period. And then I just wanted to know, like, what's the plan?
Okay, okay,
Russ.
okay. John Stringfield, are you on or a member of your team able to talk about the scope? I think these are for mechanical engineering design services versus the full implementation, but I may be wrong.
Correct. This is John Stringfield, Director of OCP.
Can you speak up?
Speak up.
John Stringfield, Director of OCP,
Office of Capital Programs.
Office of Capital Programs. I'm sorry. So Thor Nelson, who is actually our AVP of Planning and the Program Manager for these services, can speak to the actual layout and schedule of how these services will be utilized.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon. My name is Thor Nelson. I'm the Associate Vice President for the Office of Capital Programs, Planning and Design. The $19 million and $6 million you reference are estimates for our immediate term work over the next year to 2 years for replacing mechanical systems as well as other comprehensive repairs in buildings. The contracts for the MEP firms are just the design fees. So they're just typically 6 to 8% of what the total contracted amount of work would be. And as I said, that this is just the near-term need that was identified in the solicitation, but we do expect greater needs to come out of the inspections that are currently going on as part of the HUD audit response, and that the need will become greater.
Thanks, Thor. Commissioner, does that answer your question?
That does. And I have another question for this resolution, and that's more so about the evaluation criteria. As it's listed in the memo, is it listed in order of preference? I mean, or most important, or are they all weighted equally?
They usually are not all weighted equally. I'm sorry, this is Lori Bonds, General Counsel. They are not weighted equally. So they may be ordered in the way that they were ordered in a solicitation, but there are separate number categories and factors based on the importance. And usually, again, the experience, the project team qualifications and capacity are usually always important, as well as the fee. So those are always going to be your highest scoring. But obviously, again, we point schedules with what you see here as the quality control and definitely business enterprise designation, as well as, again, anything including our Section 3 component will also have a score.
It's just that there were no scores, no points in the memo for that group. That's why I brought it up.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Have you worked with this firm before?
We have not. We have not had contracts with these firms.
Okay.
They're one of the firms previously.
Okay, thank you.
So this is Commissioner Skinner again. My question is, what's the source of these funds? Are these coming from federal funds or district capital funds?
Is John Sarah on?
Yes, Director, I'm here.
Okay, John Sarah is our Chief Financial Officer. What is the source of funds for this particular contract, please?
Let me check real quick. Just give me 5 minutes. I'll check and respond back. I need to see the entire package to know exactly where the source of fund is.
But the funds are available.
Yes, before
Yes,
we
sir.
come to the,
You can certify that the funds are available.
Absolutely.
before we come to the board, the funds have to be certified.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, but he will tell you. So unless that's germane to the vote, I would ask if the chair wants to entertain a motion.
Yes, the chair does want to move this forward, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of the contract.
This is Commissioner Reed, motion for approval of the contract.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, any?
Mr. Murphy.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Murphy,
Thank you.
any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. We have to do a roll call vote.
We do, we
Okay.
do. And this is yes for approval.
This is Resolution 2301 for approval of awarding the contract.
Thanks. Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Katrina Jones.
Yes.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Jim Dickerson,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
and Chairman Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
You have 9 yeses. The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. And the second item is Resolution 2302. Now you have caught on to our numbering system. And this one will authorize approval of a contract for fire alarm preventive maintenance and repair services not to exceed 941,000. And this is for obviously critical health and safety, our fire protection systems or services, and includes fire alarm system control panels, emergency backup batteries and accessories, smoke detectors, heat detectors, all of the things associated with fire alarm safety. And I will assure the board, because this has been flagged as an issue before, and I think in the HUD report, that in terms of our preventive maintenance, that we have not been on top of what we are supposed to do to manage it. And we have put some new steps in place in terms of our property management, preventive maintenance operations to ensure that we are overseeing the work and that we will not fall behind in terms of our fire safety components that we have to manage. So we are bringing forward a recommendation for this award to Atmos Solutions for a 3-year base contract.
And, excuse me, Director and Commissioners, this is John Sarah. Chair Skinner, I have the answer for you for the previous contract. It is an ESIP contract, so it's funded from HUD capital and ESIP funds, so no district dollars there.
ESIP being what? For the benefit of the board?
Sure. It's an energy performance contract. It's a program by HUD that we are taking advantage of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions on Resolution 2302?
Katrina Jones.
Commissioner Jones.
Okay, so I have,
Probably going to ask the same question.
I have 3 questions here. One, in the background information that you provided, you stated that DCHA hosted site visits. I was curious as to know which sites were visited, how many and which sites were actually visited.
Lori Bonds, General Counsel. I know it indicates again, site visits. Unfortunately, I can't speak to specifically what sites. I can be able to defer, again, ideally to.
This would be Nona Eath, would it?
Yes, property management operations.
Not sure if you have the answer. Nona Eath, if you're on, would you please introduce yourself and let us know if you know which properties were visited for the site visits?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Nona East, Senior Vice President, Property Management Operations. I know that there were 4 to 5 sites visited. Not sure what sites, but I'll be able to provide that information to you.
Okay. Thank you. And then the next question I had is, given the amount of advertisement that was utilized for this RFP, do we have any reason or know why we only received 2 proposals?
Lori Bonds, General Counsel. No, I don't think that there was an, excuse me, an attempt by the Office of Administrative Services to go back and check any sources. Again, as you saw, we sent it out directly to firms to respond, but it doesn't appear as if they did any due diligence just to ask why they did not respond.
Right.
So we don't have that information. We do that in situations where we do feel like there's not enough competitive respondents. But in this situation, I think the determination was, again, that they both were competitive and responsive. And again, as far as a decision being made, but when there are situations to that, we do follow up and check. And there have been times when we've actually canceled because of a lack of competition.
Okay. And then my last question has to do with Atmos Solutions and their Section 3 plan. Basically, based on the information provided, Atmos Solution has not proven that it complies with Section 3 requirements, if I read this correctly. So how do we ensure that this contract award would be any different?
Right. Ms. Eath, you want to talk about our kind of stepped up focus on Section 3?
Yes, Director, and Board of Commissioners, since, with our Section 3 plan, what, our team is actually doing is that they actually have to report to me monthly in reference to the status of, Section 3 compliance. We're no longer waiting until the end of a contract to make a determination whether a contractor has met the requirement about providing some training or, employment opportunities for our, residents for public housing or, HCV program. So monthly, they provide that information to me, we review it, and then we have a discussion about what requirements or needs are needed. And then the Section 3 coordinator actually meets with the contractors for enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other?
I had sort of a basic question. Chris Murphy, sorry. So my understanding is there's an incumbent contractor that is responsible for doing this work right now. Is that correct? And so was this a standard renewal process for which they and other people competed for the same services, or was it for the prior services plus additional services?
Okay.
Lori Bond, General Counsel. Actually, these were services that were combined with the next resolution that you'll be reviewing, which was for security cameras. So they actually were a combination of the services of fire alarms and security cameras that are separated.
Okay.
And the answer to your first part of the question is yes, it's routine services. So that's why it's a shorter time frame, so that again, we can be able to issue another competition for services we already had. So we already had services for fire alarm. And so once that contract is up, then we issue solicitations in advance of that, at least 6 months, 8 months before, so we can make sure we have someone on board before it expires.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So this is Commissioner Skinner, just so I'm clear. So there's an incumbent contract in place that expires soon, and that's why we're doing this today?
That is correct, Commissioner.
When does it expire?
It expires, I believe, January 31st.
Okay. Or this week?
Yes,
Next week.
that's why we
So we
had to
need-
bring this forward.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2302.
So moved.
Commissioner Murphy, second?
Second, Jim Dickerson.
Good.
Got it.
Commissioner Dickerson. Any further comments? Then we'll take a vote, roll call vote.
Resolution 2302,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Jim Dickerson,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Katrina Jones,
Yes.
Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
You have 9 yeses. The resolution is approved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Let's move to the next one. The next one is Resolution 2303, and this is for the contract for security cameras. As Ms. Bonds just said, previously we had bundled those two into one package, and now this is a separate contract. This is supporting the installation and maintenance of security cameras and building access control and for, I believe, all of our properties. And the recommendation is Prism International LLC at nearly $1.9 million for a 3-year base contract.
Any questions? Commissioner Reed?
Hi, Commissioner Reed. Question on the contract. Are there performance metrics contained in this contract for time cameras are actively working and or repaired?
You can answer that.
Lori Bond, General Counsel, yes.
Lori Bond.
It was presented in the previous presentations, again, preparing, again, for these resolutions. And yes, there is a matrix that is included, as well as that there are requirements for performance and for maintenance to make sure that the cameras are working, that there's notification to staff and that they're involved regularly to make sure that they're operational. So that again, the access controls, we can be aware of them and make sure that they continue to be operational as quickly as possible. We know that there are issues and have been issues on the property with vandalism. And so obviously as quickly as they can, responding to such and trying to not only repair, but look at different ways to be able to install the cameras so they're not damaged and so that we can still be able to have that access to the properties.
And just as a follow-up question, are there penalties if the vendor does not meet the performance standards that are in the contract?
Unfortunately, I can't speak to that. I have not seen the solicitation to be able to know that for certain. But obviously we can definitely be able to respond and follow up to find out, and I can be able to pull that up and let you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes. All right. So the first one, just a clarification from Director Donaldson. Does it include all property?
I don't think this one covers every single property. I looked at a list. We have 46 properties. So I think this is.
There was a list of a number of properties.
It's not everything.
It's a lot of them, and we have them all listed. But in order for me to stop and count.
You can email it. I just.
Okay. To see if there are any that are missing.
Yes.
And then my next question, ITD, is that information?
Information Technology Division.
Okay. And then, I asked a question about what made, CNA ineligible and non-responsive, but I think that might be another issue.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the previous contract.
Yes, okay, and then, this had to do with prisons and their Section 3 plans. And I just asked the question of why Greenleaf only? They specified in there that they were going to provide training opportunities to the Greenleaf community. But if we're talking about X number of properties, why wouldn't it be for all of those properties where they would be installing that? That's concludes my question.
Yes, I think on the Section 3, Nona, if you want to chime in, that the so Section 3 for those who are just new to public housing and requirements for when we spend federal dollars, that we would provide either training, educational development, business opportunities, and jobs for residents. And there are very strict requirements that we are required to monitor and ensure that the vendors comply with. That it's usually tied to the size and the scope of the contract. So it wouldn't necessarily be for every single property. It would be X number of dollars or opportunities or jobs. And they may have picked the one site to say that's where they're going to concentrate to meet the requirements. And Nona, am I saying that correctly, or you want to amplify?
Yes, ma'am, that is perfect. So in their Section 3 plan, the contractor vendor has the opportunity to outline who he will be targeting for those opportunities. So that is correct.
I have a question. Commissioner Burbridge, my question is since it's just that target property, if they do not have enough participants, what pools are we pulling from?
Then we can pull from any other property. That'll be a conversation to have with the contractor vendor at that time. So if they are short of participants for the opportunities, then we will pull from other areas to be able to fill those.
So one other statement, could I add?
Commissioner Jones?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones, could we consider making sure that that is included in the contract award opposed to after? Just a statement saying if they don't meet the population at Greenleaf, that the other properties where they will install, those people will be allowed to participate also.
Yes, we can make that. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2303.
Commissioner Jones, I move that we approve Resolution 03.
Second.
2303.
23, second.
Commissioner Reed, second.
Reed, second. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote. Yes to approve the contract?
Resolution 2303, Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Katrina Jones,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Jim Dickerson,
Yes.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
9 yeses, the resolution is approved.
You didn't ask me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me recount that. I forgot to call Denise Blackson. So Denise Blackson, so now it is officially 9 yeses. The resolution is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Director Donald, we're moving
Yes.
on to Resolution 2304, and this is where we're getting into the construction.
Yes,
contract.
so I'm very excited to talk about these and actually want Brian Butler, who is the Associate Vice President in Capital Programs, who is over our construction services. And actually, this is his brainchild and he's driving this. I pushed our team to work harder, faster, and to really accelerate our repairs for our residents. And what do we need to do in an extraordinary way over the next few months to get to all of our units that are occupied as well as the vacant units. And just to make this point, over the summer, between the summer and the end of the year, we cleared over 15,000 what we call work orders. So we did an extraordinary amount of work. We had what I would call the summer blitz. And I said, I want to get all the work orders caught up. And many of them were outstanding for some of them for several years. And so that was a lot of work. But that just was the tip of the iceberg. That is really just anything. Could be a work order, it could be a leaky faucet, it could be a hole that needed to be patched, but it wasn't the total work. It really is just patching and responding to maintenance needs that residents put forth. And still, when we went and looked at the properties afterwards, there are still not places in Burbridge and Blackson can well attest where we want our residents to live. And so I said, we've got to step that up. And working with Jenny Reed and her role, in addition to being the director of budget and performance for the city, the mayor appointed her to lead the city's contribution to our work on the HUD report. And so she's just been an enormous partner and really pulling together other agencies. And so this was one of the things that we knew we needed to do differently. And we reached out to Department of General Services because they have a bank of contractors that they have already vetted and gone through a competitive process. And so initially we wanted to know if we could do an MOU with that agency and use their contractors. And then our teams, our procurement team, contracts team, and our legal teams work with them and say, well, no, it'd be better. And then we got some feedback from our board because we first introduced it several months ago, that the board wanted to be responsible and accountable for approving contractors. So then we decided that we could do a version of what we call piggybacking off of their contracts. And that was a very detailed, laborious process. Commissioner Jones, just want you to know, making sure that we had information, based on how information on how those contractors were selected, that they went through a competitive process, that they met all of the qualifications that were needed for these jobs that we have. And they have a longer list of contractors. Brian Butler, from his previous work, used to work at DGS, but also running our construction operations here, then went through to vet the list to see of those contractors who best could meet our needs, did the kind of work we needed, and critically important, could build the capacity in a short period of time. So someone could be a good contractor, but they're tapped out and they're like, I can't hire any more people. We'll be ready for you in 3 months. And we're like, no, we need you ready tomorrow as soon as we get these contracts signed. So Brian vetted that list based on the information provided by DGS. And these are the vendors that we're bringing forward. There are two different categories. One is for construction management services. Basically, we will have teams of managers, estimators, those sorts of expertise working alongside our team. The idea is that over the next couple of years, they'll help to train our staff, and we'll be able to do kind of like a transfer of knowledge so that we can surge up now and then build our own capacity at the same time. So I think it's a real win-win situation. The second contract is for actual contractors. And the way this will work is that the teams will go in with inspectors into each of the units. We're already doing some of that now, or we'll start next week with some of our own staff. As soon as these contracts are signed and executed, then we'll be able to surge over the next couple of months. And then right after they go in with the detailed inspections, then we'll be able to put together the task list for the work that needs to be done and start moving through that over the next few months. So lots of boots on the ground, Commissioner Burbridge. I know Commissioner Reed in a briefing session asked about how we're going to communicate with residents, and which is a very important point, that we don't just show up one day and say, here we are, we want to come inspect your unit, which unfortunately we have done in the past. So we are putting together, Commissioner Reed, a communications plan game. So we'll come back to the board because I want you to see the whole big picture, because it is very exciting. But then how we communicate to the residents will be in multiple ways. It will be through our leadership. So Commissioner Burbridge, get ready for some more information to share. Through our resident leaders, through our property managers, and then to individual residents, with a kind of cascading and multiplying levels of communication. So again, very, very excited about this. It was a lot of work and great partnership with DGS. So hopeful that the board will support this and so we can move this forward. So the first one is the resolution 2304, and that is for the construction management services. And that one, we have identified a couple of firms, Brailsford and Dunleavy and JDC Construction, as the vendors who are ready to move forward as soon as we give them the green light.
Okay. Okay, any questions from the board? Commissioner Reed.
Yes, thank you very much, Director. I'm very, very excited for this effort. And I wondered if you could just clarify for us the scope of the project, like where are we going in, and then what types of repairs are we looking at under this?
Yep. Brian, are you on? Yes. Introduce yourself and if you can respond.
Yeah, so this is Brian Butler, the AVP of Construction for Department of Capital Construction. Yeah, so there's, as I said, there's two contracts that we're looking at. A PMCM firm, which is more on the professional services. These will provide inspectors to complement our own in-house inspectors, but they're inspectors that we'll be bringing on from this company will have specialty skills like in mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So they will have a more of a detailed specificity of what they're looking at around across the portfolio. They will also have project managers and data analysts. So as we do this detailed deep dive on inspections of all our units, we'll be able to create that data, and also be able to have a group of people analyzing the data to quickly convert that into scopes of work that will be then converted over into the second contract, which is for the general contractors. And so we have an existing, I think, work order list of around 9,000 that's outstanding. Once we go through this inspection process, we expect that number to increase by a magnitude. And so what we want to do is create large scopes of work together to take care of all the mechanical issues in a building, or all the plumbing issues within a building. So create those scopes of work that would be then carried out by our general contractors, by one of these 5 contractors that individually have different skill sets that they can bring to the table. So there's 2 sets. One is the implementation of fixing the work, and one is the oversight of figuring out what exactly has to be done, and then also correcting, making sure all our data is correct within our agency going forward.
Thank you. And so you will go to every public housing unit, right? And
Yes.
you will also be able to make more units occupied.
Oh.
Correct.
And this will be not necessarily like replacing a roof or every window in the building, but all of those things that interrupt quality of life, leaky faucets, mold, things like that. That's what this is going to do. Okay. And then I know we talked about this in a earlier conversation, but just as part of the work you're doing to communicate back to us, it would be helpful to see the progress being made and the data Brian was talking about. How many units are we getting to? What's the timeline look like, and being able to translate that to communicate to the public as well.
Commissioner Murphy.
Chris Murphy, I just wanted to pick up on that because that was where I was going to. I feel like this and the next resolution are some of the most important. I mean, they're all important that we're voting on today, but these two feel particularly important because they are poised to directly and immediately impact people's lives. And so I'm particularly attentive to them. I guess my question is, in thinking about our role in holding you all accountable, when we think about starting to into our normal cadence of regular monthly board meetings, do you have a sense, because there's so many moving parts that have to happen here. And first, there's going to be a list of just the units that have been surveyed, and then it will turn into work plans, and then it will turn into completed jobs, we hope. Do you have a sense of, we'll be back in a couple weeks, and then we'll be back in a month. Do you have a sense, or could you give us a sense of what we should expect to see at the next kind of several series of board meetings?
Brian?
Yeah, no question.
Because I'm pushing
So when we're looking at the metrics, one of the things I was looking at as well is how do I break this down into a format that will allow for you to get the key pieces of information. And I do have a group of ideas around that I will need to run through the executive team to present. And I think we can, hash through that over the next week. That will give you all the highlights that you need to have to show the progress is happening. And so I think we can work through and have something for you in about a week's time that will give you like KPIs that are trackable, but meaningful KPIs that actually show that we're making the progress that we're saying. The other side is just simply how we're scheduling the work, updates on scheduling the work, things like this, which are, it's the basics of Gantt charts of how we would show the progress and the percentages complete and, and just a structural breakdown of all the workloads, which you wouldn't have yet. It will be developed as we go through the process. So we have a high level which sites we're going to, when we're going to them. And as we work through that, then it'll create, each one of those sites will have its own work breakdown of what actually has to happen on that site. So I'm excited to get these contractors on to help me to build out that structure. And so once we have that, and within 4 to 6 weeks, I think we'll have a list of KPIs that will be very informative that we can provide to you on a monthly basis.
Okay, I will very much look forward to reviewing that. Thank you.
Commissioner Burbridge.
Yes, I have a question. Commissioner Burbridge, I have to say my name first. It all sounds good, but when will the actual work be done? Because we're talking about, I know we have to get the timeline, I know we have to get reports, but for the residents, how soon will you be able to actually go in their apartments for the occupied ones and begin working? Will that also take at least 4 to 6 weeks?
So as I said, there is two pieces of this. One is the work we're doing already on the contracting side, which is the contracts we have today. So that's ongoing and work that's happening. And then PMO have their maintenance staff that's ongoing. This is an initial surge on top of all of that is what we're talking about. And also to find out what we don't know. Is, we know what we know today, but we also know there's stuff out there that we don't know. That haven't been reported and probably should have been reported by residents across the portfolio that we want to make sure we're fixing. So within once we have these contracts awarded, and I'm estimating POs in place roughly by the end of February, as soon as that hits, we would then be moving into construction work. So this isn't a process whereby we will do all inspections for the next 6 weeks and the contractors don't come in until after all of it's done, it'll be overlapping. So we'll do inspections, we'll roll out scopes of work, and then the contractors will be coming in after that as additional inspections are happening. So this is, there is a 4 to 6 week period once the contractors come on. So so around 6 weeks time, I would expect you to actually see boots on the ground doing work once POs are in place.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Commissioner Skinner. So are you going to be doing work at all of the properties, and if not, how are you setting priorities?
All of the, so I.
You'll answer that.
All of the properties, and we're working through, like I've asked the team, like, what's your rationale for where you start the prioritization? That really should be driven by the need and the structure, and they have that, and then we'll come back and translate that, right? So next week, we're already starting to do inspections in some of our senior properties with our own staff that have been trained at the higher level of inspections. And they selected those because they've got less of structural issues, and they're properties that, they're not the big campuses, they're easier to get into. They already have a set of rationale for that. We're laying out the whole plan, which we'll be happy to share with you, but it will be every single property, every occupied unit. And then, of course, we have our vacant unit work that we've been doing way over the last year, but it will be every single unit. So tell your people to get ready.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to take a step back just in the contracting process. And I just had a question about the evaluation criteria and the rationale for project management being weighted more than relevant experience and capabilities. Do we know the rationale for that?
Lori Bonds, General Counsel, no, we do not.
Okay.
For the project management plan being weighted for 30 points
Yes.
versus experience for 20 points.
Yes.
But also it's key personnel. So they're added that for another 20 points as far as at least those three categories. But no, I can't speak to how they made the determination of which one was 30 versus 20.
Okay. And then I noticed that there were 26 firms that were considered eligible. How did DCHA determine the 2 vendors met the technical requirements? Did we include our own evaluation criteria or something different?
Brian?
Yeah, so we looked at DGS's obviously scoring and the way they placed it, but what the district does is a lot of, they do short-term family housing, they do schools, they do parks and recs. Our portfolio is quasi-government portfolio, but it isn't that. So what we also asked for is additional summary of qualifications around their housing and multi-housing experience to ensure we're getting the right firms that had the capacity we needed with the experience we needed. So the 2 firms that we selected have an in-depth knowledge of the DC market, DC submarket. They also have their CBEs. They have a lot of affordable housing experience in this region. And so we felt these 2 firms kind of were stand out above the rest with the experience we were looking for at DC Housing.
Okay, could you name any of the properties that they've worked on, any of the affordable housing projects that?
Yeah, I can pull them down and send on an additional items with that. I've got 2 criteria that lay out all of their previous experience around public housing properties and stuff they've worked on. So I can pull that out and send it on to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is Commissioner Skinner again, and I asked the same question I asked before, and that is the source of the funds. These are for the second resolution, large amounts of money, up to $75 million. So for the board, the authority has been getting $50 million a year from the district for capital projects for the last couple of years. And I know we need to accelerate spending of that. So I guess I'm asking, are we using the district capital funds to fund this?
I believe so, and some may be, there's an additional source of funding that the agency had gotten for several years that we call rehab and maintenance funding, and there was a pot that moved forward as well. So I think it's a combination of district capital and R&M. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, yeah, it's a combination of both. And the one thing just to remember, it's an IDIQ contract, so we need to we think of these as fishing licenses. So we always want like two times the capacity that we actually want to spend on it, if that makes sense. So we can have the competitive bidding on going after the work we're presenting.
I have one more.
Yeah, Commissioner Jones.
Okay, so with regards to the Section 3 compliance, would it be more efficient to ask for just a plan upfront opposed to at each award at a task order? Because that's what I see here. It said that it will be required for submission by the contractor at the time of task order authorization.
I can speak to that, Director. Lori Bond, General Counsel, because of the fact that these are indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts, we don't know what work they're going to be able to get. And again, the Section 3 commitment from HUD is also based on the spend. So we can't require obviously more work than actually what they're going to do. Yes, it would be more efficient, like the other ones, that they had a set Section 3 commitment on the front end. But right now, until we actually have specific amounts and specific jobs that we're asking them for, it's done on the task order level. So it will be multiple ones. So they'll actually have multiple things they'll have to commit to, but it'll still be in line with, again, what exactly in the amount of their spend. Did I answer that?
It answered my question.
But you don't like the answer.
So I guess if someone is gonna get a task order for 500,000 and another one gets one for 3 million, it's gonna be a different requirement, yeah.
I know, but I'm saying, I think that we can think of some ways somehow to include, it's a baseline, some baseline, and then put some language in there that may say, if this happens, then it'll increases, right? So I don't think, based off of what I know, the type of work that's going to be happening, that we're talking about a $500,000 task order, right? We only have two, right? We only have two.
On the the construction management one, right? Now that one we may be able to do on the IDIQ on the second, the construction.
The actual, yeah, I'm not on that one yet.
Being on the.
2304.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can look at that.
Yes.
Right. Can I ask a related question? Because I think it's a really good question. Is do we have any experience with an IDIQ contract in managing Section 3 compliance? Like because it's it can't be the first time.
No, we do, and it's on a task order level basis.
Right.
Because of the jobs that come.
But is there some, because I'm with you on this, is there some sense that, like, it would be sort of silly to have Section 3 compliance for a little job here, a little job there.
Right.
Have some sense that it's going to roll up into something bigger, which I think I'm trying to get what your point at, which is this should be meaningful. We have some experience with that, and is that the expectation that that's how that would be handled in this case?
I think the difference has been in the services. So we have done IDIQ contracts before, usually in construction, but also in legal services, right? So when you're talking about legal and providing services, it's a little bit different. And we have done what you suggested, which was a baseline, and there was a commitment just because of the fact of the idea of the kind of services. And we always have to carve out something different because they may not all the time be able to hire because of the type of services they provide. Whereas looking at firms like construction, we know they can be able to hire as well as be able to do internships and different things. So it's looking at what those opportunities are, how expansive they can be. To your point, both of your points, obviously we would be able to look at ideas of having baseline where we've done before, scholarship opportunities, internship, work it right, and make it a scalable system where we can be able to increase based on the amounts for the actual jobs and the amounts that they have. And so we can definitely work with Nona.
Nona,
Heath,
you're
and our
taking note. Yeah.
Property management operations for our Section 3 coordinator to start working on that.
Yeah, because again, we're only talking about a limited number of contractors, right? That are
Right, for the.
provide this
yeah,
for
These two, that's
Okay.
right. That's
And
right.
there's a lot of money, and if only one of those vendors is getting the majority of the work, then that means that.
Then we didn't do something, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So,
Point well taken, and we will do that, Nona, if you're making notes. Okay.
Okay, so I guess I thought we were kind of going back and forth
Right.
between 2304 and 2305, but I think Commissioner Jones just said she has another question on 2305, right?
I'll go to 2305.
Okay.
I was just on.
We're discussing both, so when you move,
Right, yeah.
we'll vote on it separately.
We have to vote on, yeah, we have to vote on it
Right.
separately. We can discuss both.
Let's see what I got in here.
Got it.
Yeah.
On these.
It's kind of the same thing. Oh, okay, so my first question on Commissioner Jones. And my first question on number 5 was just the period performance. I wasn't sure that I read this so that the period of performance that we're talking about aligns with the GGS contract period of performance. Just wanted to flag that.
Ours is 4 years.
Sorry, it broke down. Yeah, it's for 4 years in total, and it aligns with the DGS contract.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
And then my next question was, it appears that some of the tasks listed here will overlap with resolution number 1, the MEP, and number 2. And I wanted to know if that was intentional.
So which are you talking about, the contractor, the general contractor for the 15 million resolution 025? I think it was.
That some of the tasks in the IDIQ overlap with tasks in construction management.
Yeah, and they would. So they would overlap in how they're worded, because one, they'd be talking about mechanical, electrical. One is on the engineering side from a professional services looking at it, and then one is from the implementation side for the general contracting carrying out that. So the language would be very similar, but what they're doing it from one from the design side, one from the construction side, if you think of it from that perspective. But the language would read very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And there is avenues where you'd have a contractor that would do like an equivalent of a design build that would take on both roles depending on what you need on a site.
And then my next question was, how did you determine that these firms met the technical requirements?
So it's the same as the professional services. We had the original proposals that we reviewed, and then also we had them supply additional information around their housing experience. So the same process. And so we can provide in a similar manner what you requested previously on projects and stuff that they've worked on previously.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion for resolution 2304. This is for construction management services.
Make a motion to approve.
Is that
Melissa Lee.
Commissioner Lee? Second?
Commissioner Harris, second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Sure.
This is on resolution 2304.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Jim Dickerson,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Katrina Jones,
Yes.
Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
9 yeses. The resolution
Okay,
is
the
approved.
resolution passes. Okay. So we are now moving on to resolutions related to the new market tax credit.
Discuss and vote on 20.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Have a discussion. Take a motion.
Okay, so this is a motion to approve resolution 2305.
Commissioner Reed, so moved.
Second?
Jones.
Commissioner Jones seconds. Further discussion? Then we'll take a roll call vote. This is on resolution 2305.
Katrina Jones,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Jim Dickerson,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
9, it is a pass. It passes.
Okay, thank you. So as I started to say a second ago,
Okay.
we're now going to move to the resolutions related to the new market tax credit program.
Okay.
And
Mr. Chairman, Chris Murphy, can I ask just a quick follow-up question? Because Commissioner Reed asked a question a bit ago that's been in my head, which is this communications plan, because it's so critical. In the resolution number 4, the contract management work that we just approved, are they going to be responsible for developing a communications plan, or who's responsible for that?
We are.
Okay.
We have a team putting it together.
Okay, so agency staff.
Yes.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
So we are soliciting for external.
Say, we're going to get some outside help.
Yeah,
Right.
but that would not be,
I mean, they can advise us if they're ready, if we can get them in quickly.
okay, just the complexity of the communications plan is.
Yes.
is-
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the new market tax credits, I don't know how familiar the board is with the new market tax credit program, so I'm going to ask John Stringfield to give a quick background, really quick, on what it is and how we receive the money. But this is another good news story that we didn't get good news from, that we should, is that we received $55 million in new market tax credit funds through our subsidiary entity, which is called DC Housing Enterprises. And we have to have a whole nother brief conversation on all the entities that we have. But this was the largest award that we have ever gotten. And I think it was one of the few in the country. And
So we're the only public housing agency that received credit.
this year, right? So I mean, it's really a big deal. And there are 3 resolutions before you. One is a very simple one that for some reasons, legal reasons, the board has to approve application for next year's funds. So we're going to, hopefully that will be, we get that. But then we also have, out of the $55 million, when the application was put in, there were a number of projects identified that met certain criteria that qualified as part of the package. And then once we get the money, the award, then we go back to those projects to see if they are still viable. They have to bring some of their own funding. Are they ready? Lots of different requirements. And then there are subsequent awards to these entities. And we're very excited. One is DC Safe Project, which will be a shelter for victims of domestic violence in Ward 5, which I believe will be the first one in the city. And then the second is for investment in the Whitman Walker Project at St. Elizabeth's, which is where a lot of exciting work is going on in Ward 8. So we're very excited to be able to contribute to those. I don't know how much more background you want on it. If you want more, then I'll ask John Stringfield to speak up. If you don't, then we'll move it forward.
I have a Commissioner Lee question. There were 5 projects listed in the presentation. Were all 5 of those part of the application?
Done.
Yes, all 5 were a part of the.
This is John Stringfield.
I'm sorry, John Stringfield. In this role, I'm the president of DCHE, and correction, no, all 5 were not a part of the application, and I can tell you the previous application, I can tell you which projects were a part of the application. And DC Safe actually was from the RFP for our notice of award that we submitted to the public in December of 2022. And DC Safe was a respondent that we received from that RFP. The Whitman Walker project was from the application, and the upcoming 3 of the 4 projects were from our previous application. The other one that was not was the Girls Charter School at the ARC, was from our RFP.
And then how much time do you, Melissa Lee again, how much time do you have to allocate all of the funds to projects?
So we have 5 years to allocate from an award allocation. However, we have 12 months to allocate a certain percentage, and that certain percentage is at least 15%. And actually, in order to be competitive for the next year's application, which we were requesting to submit an application on the 26th, which is tomorrow, you need to have allocated 30% of the previous year's award to be competitive for the subsequent application. And the 2 requests for application or for allocations that we're requesting today will actually bring us to 38%, which will make our application even more competitive in the upcoming application period.
Excellent, thank you.
Chris Murphy, I had a question about some of the language in the resolutions. And I think in several of these, it references the bylaws require it going through the board committee process. And can you just confirm that the prior board considered these so that we've satisfied that obligation?
Yeah, go ahead. Roy Bonds, General Counsel. Yes, again, we actually did have a DCHE meeting, actually already prior to this meeting, just so that once we had the meeting, since the application is due tomorrow, then they could be able to proceed. We are revisiting actually the DCHE bylaws so that we can look at that, because previously it did require you to have to go through two committees, an actual development and modernization, which was the name of our previous capital projects committee, as well as audit and finance, before it then could go to DCHA board and then to DCHE. So we are reviewing that so we can be able to change some of that structure so it's not so arduous. But we did also already though have the DCHE meeting. Yes.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Silla, I wanted to ask, there was mention of an application process and then an RFP process. Was the application process competitive? How do you invite, or did you invite the first round of applications? And then going forward, assuming that only 38% have been allocated and that you've been through all of the projects in the application, and maybe you haven't identified more, what is the plan for ensuring that there is a competitive process for bringing these projects on board?
Well,
John, go ahead.
that is a great question. I think I heard two pieces. And the first piece is how we request projects or do a call for projects. One, there is an RFP process, and I'd like to say that we are one of the only, if not the only, CDE in the country that does a request for projects. It's a very small community, the New Markets Tax Credit community, and usually how projects are nominated through previous awardees or investors in the community. However, DCHE, we also do an outreach to other district agencies to let them know that we have received an allocation, and that's a very informal process. And then in regards to how we plan to allocate the subsequent amount of our projects, the remaining 55 million, we do have the 3 remaining projects that I've mentioned that will be coming down the pipeline that we're currently underwriting. One, to make sure that they are still ripe and they still meet the criteria for an investment. And we will be bringing those to the DCHE board over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks.
One question.
Oh, and then I'm sorry, I didn't answer the piece about the criteria that we use. The criteria that we use is one, program compliance, to make sure that the projects actually meet the New Market Tax Credit program compliance, their area of experience in what they're proposing that their allocation be used for, and then the likelihood of success in our application process. And just to let you all know that we will be bringing to the DCHE board within the next 2 to 3 months an investment criteria that we are currently developing, that we will be able to quantify, better quantify how we go about awarding our projects.
Commissioner Jones, one question. I read in the background that there was an allotment to a project in Los Angeles, California in the past.
In the past.
Yeah.
That's very strange.
Clarification that DCHE is funding projects in the District of Columbia only as part of its charter now or going forward.
So for the record, yes, it was in the past, and that was, as I understand, the period of time, the compliance period that Mr. Stringfield just mentioned, where you have to allocate the funds, we have to spend the money.
Or lose.
Allocate or lose it.
Right.
And so at that time, they had identified a project, and I don't think this was necessarily the agency or DCHE's fault, but had identified a project that kept saying it was going to be ready, and they got another chance, they got another chance. And then the time ran out, and it was either lose the money or invest in some worthy project that served. And so there was, an outreach to a project that would be ripe where the money could be awarded. And so that's what we're building in the planning and the safeguards to prevent that from happening.
And if I could, Director Donald, John Stringfield again, just to add, it's not just lose the funds for that particular allocation. It also impacts our ability to be considered as a CDE to receive additional funds in subsequent allocations. So that's why it was very critical that we made that investment.
Thanks for that.
So this is Commissioner Skinner, John. So it's my understanding that when we submit our application, we have to decide what geographic area we want to cover. So in our application that we're about to submit, I think tomorrow, we're saying we're going to limit it to the District of Columbia?
It does.
Correct. Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to be clear.
I have a question,
Commissioner Burbridge.
Burbridge, because the residents are my interest. When we do these new tax credits investment, are we focusing on projects that actually benefit the residents of DCHA? I heard about Hope. I know about Whitman Walker. They are good. And is there a way we can put in a stipulation like with the girls' charter school that you have to take so many people from the population? These are great projects, but I want something that actually benefit the residents of DCHA, not just taking money and say, before we lose it, we'll give it to this cause and that cause. Thank you.
And that's a great question, Commissioner. And I'd like to say our intent is to identify projects, businesses, and potential investments that are within our communities, adjacent to our portfolio of properties, and that will be able to support those. But a lot of times it's just not, and that's one of the requirements of the New Market Tax Credit Program, that there be invest in low-income communities. And as you may know, most of our communities meet that criteria, and we look initially for low-income communities and then look for projects that do have an adjacency to our portfolio of properties.
Okay, so you're saying we're looking for low-income communities and also projects that would bring the residents in, even though they're in a lot of low income communities, the services that they provide, would it be beneficial for the residents? I'm just adding that part. It wasn't, just to make sure that when we're doing this with the correct intent. Thank you.
And yes.
Okay.
So I guess we've sort of talked generally about the New Market Tax Credit Program. I'm going to ask, let's focus on Resolution 2306. I'm going to ask specifically, are there questions about that proposal to allocate $13 million to Whitman Walker Clinic? No? Okay, so hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2306.
Motion made, Melissa Lee.
Commissioner Lee moves second.
Commissioner Reed, second.
Commissioner Reed, second. Any further discussion? So we'll take a roll call vote.
Jim Dickerson,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Katrina Jones,
Yes.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
You have 9 yeses.
Okay. So then we move on to 2307, which is to allocate $8 million in New Market Tax Credits to the DC Safe project. Any further questions on that? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve 2307?
Motion to move, Melissa Lee.
Commissioner Lee, motion, second. Commissioner Jones, second. Any further discussion?
Just a kind of question for John. This was one where I guess it wasn't included in the original application. Chris Murphy, by the way, sorry. But it mentioned that it was sort of taking advantage of the language that allows similar projects in the same asset class. Can you just say a quick word about how you determine whether something falls in the same asset class or is it considered as quote unquote similar project?
Similar project, it would be considered a similar project.
Okay.
Asset class.
That's it.
I mean, not to nitpick, but you did make the point. So, it talks about community safety net services, including medical facilities. I don't think DC Safe really is not medical. So I'm trying to understand, how do you determine when something is similar?
So I would say our mission is to invest in projects that support education, social services, education, and of course, affordable housing. And so DC Safe meets the component of being social services, where we are not only trying to assist from a social service standpoint, but also from housing, because DC Safe will provide housing for emergency domestic violence victims.
And we have the discretion to determine what we consider similar? Because similar is in the eye of the beholder, obviously. So are we the beholder?
Yes, we are the beholder in this point. And to my point that I mentioned earlier, we are going to really be more specific in our criteria of quantifying how we look at our investments, so that each investment will get a point scoring in regards to how well they meet the intent of affordable housing, educational, as well as social services.
That's the reason, and I don't mean to belabor that. I'm trying to sort of anticipate somebody coming down the road and criticizing us or something. So I'm trying to sort of seal off potential criticism. That's why I asked. So and if you can tighten up that process, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it.
Sounds good. So we're now on.
Ready for the vote.
23.
Yeah, because you already had a motion.
Yeah, the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Yeah,
right.
so I'll go.
Okay, so this is the vote for resolution 2307.
Yep.
New market tax credits for DC Safe project.
Yep. Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Jim Dickerson.
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Katrina Jones,
Yes.
Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
You have 9 yeses.
Okay, so then we'll move on to 2308, which is the authorized submission of the new market tax credit application to the Treasury Department, CDFI fund in the Treasury Department. And the applications are due tomorrow, January 26th.
Ready as soon as the board approves.
2023. Okay, you want to give an overview, or John?
This is on what we're going to be applying for, John?
So this application, this is a request for a $63 million allocation. The projects that we have in this application are the Deanwood Town Center, which is to complete 184 deeply affordable for-rent housing units, which will include 60 to 80 replacement units for Lincoln Heights. There's the Fairlawn Incubator, which is an incubator for small businesses to be a part of the economic development process. There will be the 11th Street Bridge Project, which is to create educational programming and nonprofit space and food service on the southern side of the landmark bridge spanning the Anacostia River. And then finally, So Others May Eat, which will additionally support non-residential services to include a distribution center and bathing facilities for our at-risk populations.
Any questions? Okay, we also have someone from the public who wants to comment on 2308, Mr. William Jordan. Can you pull him up, please?
Yep.
I see him. Mr. Jordan, how are you today?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Jordan.
Okay, yes, I wanted to respond to this application, but also the other that's already been sent through and echo Commissioner Burbridge's comments. One of the goals of new market tax credits needs to be to create jobs and income for our residents, not just this general funding of the nonprofit industry, which in many cases, many of these applicants are already receiving lots of government subsidy in order to deliver their services. However, there's no plan. There's nothing that I've seen that directly focuses on ensuring that these services or the opportunities and jobs actually go to residents and that residents actually increase their economic position in this city. There's no way you can survive in the city, even with affordable housing, if you're not getting income, educational advancements that really touch families. And, you know, what we're seeing is the same hands. If you go back, it's the same hands getting the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again. These resolutions don't have anything in it for plans to be developed to make sure that this is actually successful for the individual residents we need to serve. So if it wasn't for all these deadlines that we wait to the last minute to meet, I would suggest the board reject this application because we're not improving anything. And as a background in engineering, I know what a plan looks like when it's designed to succeed, and I know when it's designed to check boxes. And what I'm hearing is box checking. So I hope this board will look seriously at making sure that this program actually is measured, impacts the residents we're here to serve. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Your comments are so noted. Okay, any further discussion from the board? Hearing none.
Commissioner Silla, actually, sorry,
I'm sorry.
I wasn't able to unmute fast enough. I wonder if it's worth thinking through how the DC Housing Authority can take this feedback into account, and as we are, without necessarily stalling this resolution, but put together a plan that addresses the main points of this feedback and circle back to us on a viable, a plan that addresses the concerns outlined by this constituent.
So I'd like to make 2 points. One, I think that we believe that the projects that have been put forth do respond to 3 points actually to those criteria. The second point is, as you've seen from this year's award, there's some flexibility in terms of for us receiving the award and the actual allocation, so there can be some refinement in terms of the projects. And then 3, which probably should have been 1, is that there is an advisory committee that that consists of residents and program providers, not any who would be eligible for this, but who work in these various fields that review the application and make recommendations against the criteria. So we do have I think, a thorough process, but there's still room to make sure that the projects do address those needs. And so we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, this is Commissioner Skinner. No, I agree with what you've said, and I think going forward, we just have to figure out a way to work with this board, the DCHA board, the DCHE board, and the DCHE advisory board
Right.
to look at these criteria and to make sure that there's a better alignment between the projects we select and providing services to our residents.
Well, can I ask, Chris Murphy, can I ask just a question? Just to sort of state the obvious, the only project that can be considered are those that people are bringing forth, right? So it may be, it's not that I don't think anyone would suggest that people haven't selected good projects, but it also may be that people aren't putting forward the kinds of projects that we might want. So maybe that's something the advisory board could think about is, are there a way to sort of seed ideas so that when they do come forward, they check sort of more of the boxes?
Yeah, and think more about
kind of
doing
proactively.
better outreach, proactively
Yeah.
do more outreach to potential.
Because I'm sympathetic to the notion that you can only choose from among the choices you're given, but if you're not given all the
Right.
choices and you can't choose them.
Okay.
And this is Jim Dickerson, and we have to get the money out. So we qualify for more money. So we're in these different qualifications that sometimes bind us and we can't achieve the exact ideal that we want. But this is the goal that we always work toward, though.
So, okay, so we're not ready, I'm sorry, to move forward with Resolution 2308 to apply for the next round of new market tax credits. So I'll entertain a motion to approve 2308.
Commissioner Jones, I move that we approve Resolution 2308.
Second,
Second.
Commissioner Blackson.
Got it.
Okay.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Jim Dickerson.
Yes.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Katrina Jones,
Yes.
Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
You have 9 yeses.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to development projects. And I'm going to ask Director Donald to start with Resolution 2309, which is to authorize execution of a term sheet for the re-syndication of the Henson Ridge project.
Okay, thank you. This project originally was a Hope 6 project in 1999, $30 million project that was completed in 2007. It has now achieved the end of its tax credit compliance period, which is what happens with those projects. They reach a period of time and then the developer makes a decision about how to go forward. This one, the developer reached out to us about being a partner, a 50-50 partner in basically refinancing, resyndicating the project, preserving it as affordable housing, but with the refinancing allowing to do substantial renovations. This is a very large development in Ward 8. It's got 600 homes, almost 300 of them are home ownership or privately owned homes, 280 rental units, and then 22 units that are for people accommodating folks with disabilities. So this is one that we have been working on for about a year or so. We think it is a very positive deal that will allow us to reacquire additional public housing units in our portfolio at the same time, doing substantial renovations for the residents there, and will return $11 million that we have not yet booked in our budget, but this will be additional money that will come as a result of paying off some of the loans from the original deal. Our CFO calls it a unicorn and thinks it is a very lucrative deal for us. We think it's beneficial for the residents, but it is a very, very large project, and it's one that we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to and make sure that it is being managed appropriately. We have spent some time with residents and with Councilmember Trayon White in the community. They've had some issues about deferred maintenance and crime, and so this is one that we really need to pay special attention to as we acquire it. But what we're asking the board to do today is a very specific action. There are a number of actions that come to this board on development projects in increments, and it's just the way it's structured and what is required by the board. And so we came to the previous board in October of 2022 and got approval to submit to HUD a what's called a RAD application. And now this is the term sheet or the finances of the project to ask for board approval.
Thank you. And just to add to that, again, I chaired the previous Development and Modernization Committee, and we looked at this deal a couple of different times. And as the director said, this is one where it was a large project that was done many years ago. And the idea is to have, under the Hope 6 program, is to do neighborhood redevelopment where you work with a public housing development, but also work in the surrounding neighborhoods. And in this case, we were able to provide several hundred units of affordable housing, but also to provide home ownership. So that I think over 300 units that are now occupied by homeowners as part of the overall redevelopment of this deal. But as the director said, it's come to the end of the tax credit compliance period. And under that program, we have what's called the right of first refusal to be able to acquire the project once it meets that threshold. So the developer, which is Urban Atlantic, has proposed that we go into a joint venture, 50-50 joint venture ownership, where going forward, we would split the cash flow, developer fees, and we would also, again, the developer mentioned, we have existing outstanding loans that as part of the refinancing, we will get paid off and get about a little over $11 million. So again, the committee reviewed it. We think it's the best deal that we can. May not be the best deal, but it's the best we have, and it's what's in front of us. And I would recommend that the board approve it. With that, I don't know if you want the staff to weigh in at all, but
Unless there are other
just
questions.
right? Okay, Commissioner Reed.
Commissioner Reed, I have two questions. So my understanding, I just want to confirm, is that this is a redevelopment in place. So we're not tearing down residents.
Right.
Okay. And then the second is when you mentioned the 50-50 split, the initial term of not less than 15 years, what happens to the property after the term expires? Do we still get the right of first refusal? Will it still maintain affordability?
I know that affordability is still required, that in perpetuity.
In fact, I think this, maybe the staff can weigh in, but I think under this refinancing, there's going to be long-term affordability, at least 40 years. I think it's at least 40 years going.
At least 40 years? Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Jim Dickerson, we don't need to do it here, but I'd like to understand what the terms of the ownership, home ownership are in that. Is it a shared equity arrangement? If you're talking about long-term affordability in terms of resale, how do you keep it affordable yet the owners get some equity out of it if they sell? So I don't know. It doesn't have to happen here. I'd like to know a little bit more about how you structure that in these deals.
Okay. Johnny, making a note of that, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for this particular one, I think it's fee simple.
I think it is
Yeah,
fee simple, but I'm not sure.
And then the rental portion is separate from the homeowner. It's part of the same community.
So the owner,
In terms of legal financing, the rental property is separate from the homeownership.
But you're asking if someone sells.
they just sell on the market and it'll be
Yes,
We'll
yes, I'm
verify.
pretty sure they can just sell it.
Yes, we will verify.
we're not preserving them.
Right.
Okay, so also we have public comment on this resolution. Mr. Jordan again? There you are. Okay. Mr. Jordan, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. As I've done in the past, I oppose this deal as structured. I think but it does raise, I think, some critical problems that this board needs to deal with. I consider this a tax credit churn project. It seems to have been designed to just suck cash out of it without necessarily ensuring resident equity. We know that Urban Atlantic, I believe, was the developer, mismanaged this project. We had several hearings dealing with neglect, crime, and et cetera related to this problem. And then the housing authority is going to turn around and do a deal with these guys. Then take the cash out, but there's no commitment from the housing authority that I could determine or in this resolution to ensure that that money would be reinvested in either resident equity, resident organizing. I understood that the rental residents weren't represented as a organization in this process. So it was just kind of, And I think we're going to run into it again and again as these tax credit deals expire. And these are replacement units likely, since it was since it was a Hope 6 project. These aren't like new units that we're gaining. These are old units, and I bet you they never built all of them. So I think the board needs to table this, make sure that this deal really, really changes the conditions around that property. They need to get a new development partner, or the resolution and the deal needs to really be on top of this and empower the residents to be a part of that process. So I urge the board to table this and get it right and not just grab the cash, unless we're going to direct that cash directly to a resident or a resident entity to be involved in how that cash is going to be used in the future. We shouldn't be using residents as pawns for cash flow. So that's my testimony.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jordan.
I will say that we've had several meetings with Urban Atlantic about the property conditions and the management of the property, and that they have changed property managers. We came together and everyone agreed that the problem was largely due to the property management. Also, I'm not sure about the equity issue, since half of the units are home ownership. It's more than you would normally have in any kind of development that we're involved in. And there is a homeowners association and a resident council that had been fairly inactive, and I think largely due to the last management company, that everyone is committed to supporting and being part of the project. And as far as the refinancing, the large part of the money is going into basically rehabbing and updating the property itself, as well as addressing some of the security concerns. We've asked them to increase the security patrol, which they have done as well.
So any further questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, then this is Resolution 2309. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve 2309.
Commissioner Lee, second.
Commissioner Harris, second.
Second, Commissioner Harris. So this is a vote on 2309 to approve the term sheet for Henson Ridge.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Jim Dickerson,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Katrina Jones, absent
Please.
for a second, absent. And then Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
So 9 yeses, I'm sorry,
Eight.
eight yeses, thank you, 8 yeses, and one that's just stepped away, so the resolution is approved.
Okay, so then the last resolution is dealing with a RAD application for what we call the Melvo
Yes.
project. And I'm going to ask the director and staff to explain and give us some background on Melvo and, 2 sentences about
Yes.
RAD.
Melvo.
We will have a full RAD briefing at a later date.
I will have staff to jump in and talk about the financing through RAD. So Melvo is affectionately known as it's 5 of our smaller properties. Our own Commissioner Rosa Burbridge lives in one of them, the Lincoln, that is on our street northeast, right off of North Capitol Street. The other projects, so the M is for Montana Terrace, the E is Elvins Road, which is in southeast, Lincoln, the Villager, and the Ontario. They are all units of really, well, except for Montana has 64 units, but the others have 20 units or less. So they're small, self-contained buildings rather than the larger campuses. Montana does have a campus. This project has been in the works, in the planning works for quite a few years. The board originally, the previous board approved it some time ago. I know there was recent approval in May of 2020 to apply to HUD for a RAD application, which staff will explain in a minute. And then HUD approved that, but then didn't give us clearance from another office. And so unfortunately, and I'm looking at Commissioner Burbridge and kind of hanging my head because we had a lot of resident engagement meetings. We're very excited about starting this project that we had hoped to start a year ago and then we were waiting on HUD approval. We did get the HUD approval. Since then, HUD has issued new guidance with a new financing model, a RAD blend. Again, staff will explain this, that gives us higher revenues and really is a more favorable model for financing these developments. And so we are asking for board approval of that so that we can finally move these projects forward. So John, are you or Andre going to give a couple of sentences on, or Sasha, on what we're asking the board to do in terms of the RAD blend? And we do promise we will come back to the board as we did last year and do a symposium on this financing construct, because it really is what HUD has pushed for housing developments all across the country as a way to maximize financing models that allow us to redevelop our properties in ways that HUD has said, we're not giving you the big pockets of money to do this anymore. And we're behind the bend in terms of a lot of other housing authorities across the country. But these we think are really perfect candidates because they're so small, and that we will still be owning these properties, still be 100% public housing through one of our entities, but we're able to attract other financing. That's as much as I can explain. Okay.
Thank you, Director. My name is Andre Gould. I'm Associate VP of Development, and I'll just add a couple additional notes on what this resolution is requesting. RAD, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, essentially HUD allows our capital funds and our operating funds, and they combine those into what they're calling a project-based voucher. With the RAD Section 18 blend, it allows us to get additional rental subsidy up to the fair market level for a certain percentage of the units. And how we qualify that is based on the level of construction that we're doing at these properties that allow us to do the RAD Section 18 blend. And RAD is essentially a tool that allows housing authorities to go to the private market to leverage the properties to get additional private funding to help support rehabilitation at properties by removing the declaration trust and from the property. Are there any other questions?
Jim Dickerson, this is preservation, correct?
Yeah.
Of existing
Exactly.
units. The very same amount of units.
Yes.
Nobody's getting displaced. And it isn't a mix of market rate and low income, is it? Or is it? No.
It will be 100%.
100%.
There will be some short-term displacement because we are doing substantial renovations, but not,
Sure.
just for months.
Gotcha.
We're working with the residents on their preferred options for relocation, temporary relocation within their own neighborhoods, and that will be property by property and family by family.
Good. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Silla, I am very sympathetic to the comments, the public comments that were made by Mr. Jordan. And I do appreciate that you are planning on an orientation to RAD. So I wanted to make a couple of recommendations. One, that we also include like an orientation to low-income housing tax credits. And I appreciate that Director Donald, you mentioned the context for why public housing authorities must lean on private financing to meet their goals. I'm wondering if there are communication materials that help explain to the general public
Yes.
why we have this need. And Also, maybe if we can, as part of the orientation and communication to the public, be clear about the profits, the developer fees, the kinds of dollars that flow from these developments and where they're going. I think that would be super helpful.
Great, thank you. We will, and we have been working, we've been working with WIN actually on their model, Rad Done Right, and we're very close to alignment with that as far as some basic principles, as well as materials we've gotten from some other jurisdictions. Andre, are we self-developing these?
That's correct. We are self-developed.
So we are our own developers, which means that whatever development fees go back into our public housing.
So this is Commissioner Skinner. I would just add that on the HUD website, there's a whole section on RAD that kind of explains the program. It's a lot of detail, but it's really good information. And I think between that, if you look at that and sort of go through it quickly and get some nuggets from that, and then we'll do a detailed presentation for the board on RAD. And as she suggested, maybe an overview of the low-income housing tax credit program. Because typically for all of these RAD deals, we will have an injection of tax credits in order to make it work, to get equity that goes into the deal. Commissioner Burbridge.
Commissioner Burbridge, I'm aware of Melville, I'm aware of RAD. I'm not going to hold you up because I would be here all day with questions. But for the residents who are involved, I suggest that we do a listening session. I suggest, because this came about in 2015, it's now 2023. We don't know where we're going to locate the residents at presently, but I would like for you to also assure the residents they have the right to return, which I know, but I'm just saying that you put it on record. No one will be permanently displaced, and that we will sit down with the residents and talk with them, make them feel more comfortable. And I'm hoping that the Citywide Advisory Board can assist with staff so that the residents know they matter, and this will be something that will make their lifestyle much better.
We will take you up on that offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burbridge. I've really been thinking about this because from what I've seen and, some of my past history in working on these kinds of projects, I don't think we as an industry, the public sector as well as private developers, do a really good job in explaining these deals to the residents who are affected by them. So I'm with you all the way. I think we need to come up with a much better communications program to help us explain what's going to happen. Well, first of all, why we're doing it and what's going to happen to them and what the end product is going to be. So thank you for that, Commissioner Burbridge.
Great. Okay.
So any other questions? Okay, hearing none, then we're going to take a vote on Resolution 2310. Can I have a motion?
A motion, Jim Dickerson, I make a motion.
Second.
Melissa Lee, second.
Commissioner Lee, second. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. This is the vote for Resolution 2310 to authorize RAD project.
Jim Dickerson,
Yes.
Teresa Silla,
Yes.
Katrina Jones,
Yes.
Jennifer Reed,
Yes.
Chris Murphy,
Yes.
Ronnie Harris,
Yes.
Denise Blackson,
Yes.
Melissa Lee,
Yes.
Raymond Skinner.
Yes.
You have 9 yeses.
Okay, so so we have come to the end of the resolutions. So
Excuse me, I just want to go back to respond to Commissioner Reed with regard to Resolution 2303. So I did look up this solicitation on security services. So there are daily, weekly, and monthly requirements for reporting from the contractor, and breach and default are the consequences with regard to not following up. Again, that's the extent of it for the camera security solicitation.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. And it would be great to think about how we incorporate maintenance, that dashboard.
We do have one for that.
So, okay.
Thank you. Excuse me for that.
okay, so we have come to the point in the in the meeting where we'll have public comments, and said at the beginning that I wanted to try to make the meeting shorter. But unfortunately, we did have these 10 resolutions to get through. So I want to apologize to the residents for keeping the meeting. And as I mentioned, we're going to consider in future meetings having the resident comments first. So we're going to open it up for first resident comments and then comments from the general public. And who is first?
Sure.
Shanita?
Deandra Johnson, you have 3 minutes if you're on. Can you please start unmute? Okay. And a correction, that's 5 minutes. Ms. Johnson, are you on? Okay, I'll move on. Our next resident is Sherry Page. Ms. Page, if you're on, you can unmute yourself by *6. You have 5 minutes. I'll move on. Ms. Guess, are you there? Colleen Edwards? I'll move on. Crystal Gooseman? And commissioners, just for all awareness, some of these residents have probably already had some of their concerns addressed. Okay, so that might be the reason why they're not answering. Next is Karen Craig. Ms. Craig, are you on? I believe I saw you. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, how
Perfect.
you doing?
Good, you have 5 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. I was coming on to let you guys know, I am an ADU client, and I was taken off the ADU list and put into a regular unit. And I had wheelchair scooters, walkers, everything. But they're not telling me who took me off and where can they place me. They took me from Potomac Gardens and put me over here in the Hollow Apartments. And I've been attacked over here numerous of times, and they haven't let housing or anything. They're keeping it right here inside the building. So I'm trying to find out what can you guys do as far as helping me and assisting me as far as moving me to the correct, location.
Okay, Ms. Guzman.
Craig.
I'm sorry, is that?
This is Karen Craig.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Craig.
Yes.
We'll have to have staff follow up with you. Director Donald stepped out for a second. But we can, we have your phone number, email information, and we can have somebody on the staff follow up with you.
Okay. I do greatly appreciate that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I was, before with the meeting, I was reading the list of the follow-up from the December. Is this a process, will we get one of these each month?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
someone is capturing this, we'll follow up. and report back.
Absolutely. At the end of each meeting.
Terrific, thank you.
Staff prepares that.
The Chief Operating Officer, our Ombudsman, Wayne Waller, is on the line listening in the team. And so they, as Shanita indicated, we try and call people beforehand and see if we can resolve things to reduce the number of residents bringing issues to the board. And then we follow up afterwards with everything that needs to be followed up with and send updates to all of you.
And then we'll get that information back. Terrific, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Craig, for bringing this to our attention. We will be following up. Next on the list, sure, is China Harrison, and I hope I'm saying that right. Ms. Harrison, I saw that you joined early. Are you still with us? *6. Hearing nothing, I'm gonna move on. Olivia Farrell.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
My name is
evening, Ms.
Olivia.
Farrell. Go ahead,
Yes.
you have 5 minutes.
Okay, good evening. My name is Olivia Farrell. I had two questions. The first was, do you have to sign a lease housing said they're not going to do any increases this year. No approve any rental increases. And they said that they sent it to the portal of your management office. Yet management is still sending out rent increase and people around here are paying it with no addendum to our lease stating that we pay a higher rent or anything. And my question to that one is, do I have to sign a lease that is not for the rent that I pay, the amount of rent that I pay, just to remain here? Like if I pay $250 and they're requesting an increase for $275, but they want me to sign a lease for the $275 that hasn't been approved and is not going to be approved according to housing.
So Ms. Farrell, I'm looking for Hamra Gabrez, who actually is head of the HCVP department, because you are one of our residents within HCVP. Hamra, are you with us? If not, Ms. Farrell, I'll tell you what, we will definitely get back in contact with you so that we can answer this question and your concern.
And the other thing is they're sending these letters out with no signature. There's no signature on these rent increase letters. And I just want to know, if I sign a lease for more than I pay for rent, is that binding? Can you hear me?
Yep, no, Ms. Farrell, I hear you. I'm sorry. I was hoping that we would have the project lead on here, but she will definitely follow up with you, and we have your contact number so that we can answer both of your concerns that you brought to our attention.
And my complex has also been having sporadic heat, a little bit in the morning and freezing at night and waking up to freezing cold in the morning. And from what I understand, it went all the way to the Attorney General office, and that should never happen. I mean, and when it's something as simple as fixing whatever's going on in a boiler room. So that's another thing with the complex that I'm at. I don't know if we're supposed to say the complex name and those type things, but I need to speak to somebody directly. I can't reach my case manager. She's not responding to any emails or phones. She's not returning phone calls or emails. So I don't know what else to do. That's why I came on this meeting asking for help.
Right. Ms. Farrell, Hamra, are you on? Are you
Yes,
able?
I'm sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. Ms. Farrell, absolutely, I will talk to you this afternoon so we can make sure that we have a full understanding of what the management office is sending with you and making sure that we have the right information and can give you some guidance. So I'll talk to you after this meeting. Thank you.
I appreciate y'all having this meeting as well.
Thank you, Ms. Farrell, for bringing it to our attention.
Okay. And I would like to be advised of other meetings, please.
Yep,
So I can
all of our
learn
meetings
more
are
about
listed on our
everything.
website, but yes, they're always listed on our website.
All right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Thelma Mosley. Ms. Mosley, are you on the line? Next, I'll move on to Shanta High. Ms. High, are you on the line?
I think she's on mute.
Ms. High, to unmute yourself is *6. I'll move on. Next, we have Paulette Matthews. Ms. Matthews, can you unmute yourself?
The prior resident, she's there trying
Yes, ma'am. I've been waiting to unmute myself. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you, Ms. Matthews?
Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to answer that one right now. But far-wise, as the gentleman that spoke, I guess it's the chairperson now, in reference to letting the residents speak. I've been asking that for years. So if that happens, that would be excellent because I don't feel as though the residents who are not presently on the line are not there because their concerns have been answered, because the things that y'all were speaking about really don't have no impact on us. I just think it's the long length of time of having to wait to be able to say something and then have 5 minutes when your concerns are so much greater than the 5 minutes. I have a lot of them right now, but I'm going to talk about meetings and the fact that even when DCHA and POA, because I'm from Berry Farms, been relocated to Detroit Park, and any meetings that they have in the future, in 2023 and beyond, that y'all have staff available, even if they're not present in the room, a phone call away, so that they could be able to answer the questions that the people are asking, because when y'all say y'all get back with us, that doesn't really happen. And so that becomes to be very frustrating to have to listen to the resolutions and all of that, and then still not be able to say your piece because now you got to go back to lunch or whatever, go get your kids from daycare or whatever the situation might be, and y'all are in position to do this task for this particular time and moment. So that's a given for y'all. I'm having some ADA concerns, and I would like the ADA person's phone number, and I'm going to submit some more paperwork. I hope and pray that it doesn't take over 90 days for this, because it should have been fixed in the beginning. I've been going through something since 2019, since my arrival here. I have emotional stress dogs, and I have been emotionally stressed out through this whole episode. It would take 2 months probably to fill everybody in to be on the same page. So that's why I'm asking for the ADA person's number directly, and shortly there will be some paperwork that's going to follow. And when we get to talking about, and Mr. Jordan, I want to say to you, thank you. I'm right with you on every thing that you speak of at every meeting for this long journey that we have been on, but no one seems to really understand. I feel, and I believe some of the residents, majority of them, that they're really not paying attention to us. And these meetings are just held to check the box to say that we were there, and they're not really addressing our concerns. I had work orders that were supposed to have been done, and even though back in the past we were the reason why they changed the way they did work orders, they still failed. And then I have some issues presently right here that I've had for some time. Somebody by the name of Ms. Brown just came along. This is when Ms. Hightower was here, and just said, no, 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 no. I still have those problems. I'm having problems with having things scheduled to be done. And in that process of doing that, things have gotten worse. Someone was supposed to be here today, but then they had this water emergency or whatever. After I'd have moved all my stuff, I got back problems. I'm emotionally stressed out, had to move my dogs around and all of that. I still don't know if anybody is coming today or tomorrow. And this is like an ongoing thing. They say that the staff can't move your stuff, but yeah, I got to move my stuff. And I have problems with my back. But then for nobody not to show up and keep putting things off, it's very annoying. And so that's another one of my issues. I got on late, so I don't know if public safety got on, because that was another request that public safety always speak. And then even when they did that first time around, they were really talking about the public, and that's cool. But I'm talking about within the different properties. About 2 weeks ago, and I don't know if anybody knows or if it's been said in y'all back meetings about the 500, it was either 50 or 500 rapid gunshots that went off. And then I was outside cleaning my yard. I was thinking it was fireworks until I heard the pop, 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 the return. Far-wise as the safety that's in all public housing dwellings. It's crazy, and you know, you feel for each and every day, and that's anywhere. That's not just in public housing. But I don't feel as though it's patrolled properly. And then when it do be, it's more so harassment than safety. So that's a big issue with me. And then the Section 3 part of it, like, you know, we got people who feel as though they own a neighborhood or they beefing and stuff. And for people to be able to get training, they need to be other little pop-up areas. Even though I've been there, I've gotten training and certified and all that through the Housing Authority. But I keep saying that constantly, that should be done. So I know I got some more stuff to talk about, but when you're you got your own thoughts in your head and you got a certain time factor involved, it gets kind of a little confusing. but
Yeah,
I
Ms.
would like the
Matthews, you only have
ADA.
30
Hey, excuse me, hello. I would
Yep.
like the ADA person's phone number. Now you can say what you want to say, ma'am.
Okay, not a problem. No, I'm gonna let you finish. You only have 14 seconds.
No, you know what? Y'all can keep the 14 seconds. I just want the ADA person's number, name, or whatever the case may be. Try to figure out how I'm going to get my repairs done. I don't understand. Really, I would like to find out, when are y'all going to get qualified staff aboard, and when will y'all ever have enough staff for your properties? Because there's supposed to have been a leak. It's only one man supposedly here today. I don't know about the rest of the days.
So, Ms.
But one
Matthews.
man, see, there you go. You took up a little bit of time.
Your
But
time
it's okay.
expired.
It's okay,
Your time
baby.
expired, Ms. Matthews.
I guess it did. You talked a little bit of my time. Can I have an ADA person? Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry. Can I just have the ADA person?
Ms. Matthews, it's 202-251-8825.
That's Rachel Joseph.
Repeat it.
202-251-8825 for Ms. Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews.
Okay. Next, we're gonna go back to Shanta High. I see her on the screen. Ms. High, can you unmute yourself? Looks like she's on.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Ms. High.
Okay, let me 1 second. I gotta mute my computer so there's no feedback. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's going on, but there was some audio technical difficulties. Okay, Ephesians 4:28. Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need. Good day to the new Board of Commissioners. I'm Ms. Shantae High, President of the Council at Park Morton, a 21-and-a-half-year resident of Park Morton, creator and 2021 Vision Award winner for the Park Morton Equity Plan, a mother of 2 dynamic children, and the founder of High Alert Emergency Preparedness, or Higher Prep, that is a small Black-owned, disabled HUD Section 3 registered business in Ward 1. As a 2-term president, I have experienced so much turmoil, distress, and DCHA's negligence with the maintenance of the Park Morton property. My residents have called me on many times to advocate for them to get things fixed in their unit, with DCHA retaliating against me for doing so. Residents deserve a good quality of life while living in public housing, as well as with HCVP vouchers. To this day, residents who are off-site still depend on me by calling me for assistance when there is nothing that I can do for them in their current situation except give them resources to assist them to ensure things get done. In my experience with DCHA, I have dealt with retaliatory behavior. I have been called an obstacle on a recorded meeting by the executive director, Brenda Donald. I have been harassed, demeaned, degraded, and my name and character defamed, all because of this redevelopment that would not have been moving forward without my Park Morton equity plan, that was used to start at the footprint to accelerate this project without acknowledging the TOPA rights of the residents. The PMEP has made opportunities for the residents, such as myself, to create businesses at Park Morton. The former director, Tyrone Garrett, signed my proposal to do emergency preparedness seminars at Sibley Towns, Sibley Plaza, and Sibley Senior. I inquired to the new ED Donald upon her arrival if she would honor this proposal or if I would need to create a new proposal, to which I received no response. If residents are to become self-sufficient, we need to make money. My business would create jobs for low-income families to be able to work.
My business provided food, masks, and other necessities during the height of the coronavirus pandemic, which DCHA followed my lead to do the same. I've already provided trainings at Park Morton, Potomac Gardens under the leadership of the former president, Aquarius Van Gashri, and former commissioner, and Hopkins Apartments under the leadership of the former president, Abner Dissero. I'm a 5-star Google rated business, and you may also find me on Yelp and Bing, which we offer an array of services. Psalms 41:17. All who hate me whisper together about me. They imagine the worst for me. As I close, I want to thank everybody who has supported my business, and I want to let you all know that we will continue to serve the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Next, we'll go to Patricia Bishop. Ms. Bishop, are you on the line?
Yes, I am on the line, and I wish everyone a happy new year. Welcome to the new commissioners. But I would like for you to call on a tenant that is sitting here with me and then recall me, because I would like to place my tenant first. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, what is your name, ma'am?
Catherine Staten.
Okay, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, I had spoke to Director Donovan over the phone. I spoke to Miss Easton over the phone, and I spoke to Miss Blackson. She did a walkthrough through my unit. My unit, I've been here for 9 years. My apartment has been flooding from the first year I moved in here. It then got to the point I'm having raw sewage come up through my kitchen sink. My unit have been flooding, but it floods 2 and 3 times a year. Director Donaldson told me, I spoke to her, and she had asked me, would I want to move to a new unit in the building or either move to 1200? I told her yes. I spoke to Ms. Harvell in her office, and Ms. Harvell had told me that she would send me to several different places. I had explained to her I wanted to stay in this area, the Southwest area. She sent me to 58th Street Northeast. She sent me to B Street Southeast. And I had told her I'd rather be here in this unit. Director, she had told me that she had asked me, I told her that I wanted to stay in this area in these apartments if they could move me to another unit. They are doing remodeling in the building. And I feel that the places that I was sent to is high crime areas. I'm afraid for my life over there in them different places because I do public transportation. And it's been so many shootings and killings over there. And I expressed this to the resident manager here, Ms. Harville. I expressed it to
Commissioners, I apologize, Commissioner. She's a little nervous. It's her first time.
Yeah, this is my first time.
It's okay.
But I needed someone. I want to thank the commission for sending Director Donald for sending me a professional cleaning crew to clean my unit. My unit has raw sewage from my bedroom, my kitchen, and my front room, everywhere but in the bathroom. And I feel that it's unsafe. I got mold growing on my walls up in the kitchen, mold in my windows. I showed it to Miss Blackson and Miss Easton, Miss Eve. And I wanted to know what
instead of a call back. I'm sorry. Instead of her having a call back, we would like to have a Zoom set up with the commissioners about her situation, because it is a life-threatening situation towards her health and living conditions as soon as possible, because like it was stated, because get not taken care of the emergency type of situations that the tenants are going through here. And thank you very much for allowing me to speak and you
Yes.
speaking also.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Staton. And, you know, we will definitely follow up. I know you said you've already talked to Director Donald and others, but we will make sure that we follow up and take care of your situation and, you know, if necessary, find you a new unit.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm going to go back. Ms. Bishop, you want to go ahead and take your 5 minutes?
Yes, I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays, New Year. Welcome, new commissioners. My name is Patricia Bishop, but I'm better known as AKA Good Trouble. And I'm going to continue to get in good trouble for every one of the tenants that's asked me to get in good trouble and represent them the way a president should. I'm speaking very nice once again, but it is so unacceptable of what my tenants have to go through. One was Mrs. Mosley. She was promised to be put into a remodeled apartment. She's still in her apartment that flooded. This is so wrong. If you're supposed to abide by what we believe that you should do is put us first on a everyday matter, new board, please make sure that this happens. I'm going to go back to where I was asked to give dates because of the anger and me hitting my desk. I'm going to try not to hit my desk today. I was given an email, sent an email to send dates out. I sent 2 dates out, but was told the day before the first date that neither one of the dates was available. I spoke with Donalds at the commissioner meeting, at the ANC meetings, and I heard her apology. But the apology is not accepted because I don't have control of what the mayor do and who gets elected and who gets sworn in. When I'm asked to represent my tenants, that is the first priority policy that I'm going to push forward. I asked for a walkthrough of this entire building because of the living conditions. You have contractors in here. I have pictures. Other people has pictures. I am so distraught. Being a senior and a disabled person, even with the health of the babies, even the unborn, that we have to live in here, should nobody come before any property tenants, any property president that has requested these things from the commissioners. You're supposed to be obligated. I'm going to move on and come right back to something that was discussed today. I want to make sure I got this right. Greenleaf. Cameras? Because of security of theft? Where would these cameras be placed at? If I got the right information, because I waited a long time to try to get it together. Wait. We got cameras already outside. Are y'all saying that tenants are stealing inside the building? Are these cameras going inside the building? Or did I misunderstand why these cameras are going to be placed? Please answer that question.
Ms. Bishop, I don't want to take any of your time. You still have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, 1 minute and 30 seconds. And let's get this date pushed forward before the next Board of Commissioners meeting to see these living conditions, where tenants are living at and where they're not living at, and especially the ADA compliance, 100% need to be taken care of immediately. Y'all got a budget out there somewhere. Somehow, get it done. We deserve what we asked for. No less. And I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to speak to y'all once again.
Thank you, Ms. Bishop.
Thank you, Ms. Bishop.
Next, we have Sheila Evans.
I'm sorry, I did ask for one question to be answered. With a
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
positive
sorry.
date.
You sure did. You sure did. Go ahead. Can you restate your question? No time taken. Restate your question.
Can I receive a positive date and a kept date for the entire commissioner board to come to Greenleaf? Put us first.
So, Ms. Bishop, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chairman.
This is Chairman Skinner. We can't give you a date today. This new board wants to be very transparent. We will be coming and touring various properties, and I can't tell you a date today, so I don't know when we would get to Greenleaf.
All properties.
Thank you. Sheila Evans, Ms. Evans, can you go ahead and unmute yourself? I'm going to move on to Ms. Evans. Oh, perfect. Good. Ms. Evans, you have.
No, this is Ms. Craig. I just need to ask a question, sweetie. I'm sorry, I know it was my turn earlier, but I just need to ask one question because in the Hollow Apartments, we have a lot of disabled and ADA people, and they're not tending to us at all. We're on different floors and we're supposed to be on the bottom level. I might need you guys to come over here too, even though it's market rent.
So, Ms. Craig, we will make sure that someone, Rachel Joseph or someone will touch bases with you to find out whether that development is actually under our purview. Okay, let me move on to Donna Towns.
Sheila Evans.
Oh, Sheila Evans, okay, did you unmute? Perfect. Can you go ahead? You have 5 minutes.
Yes, greetings, representatives of council and DC Housing. My name is Sheila Evans. Excuse me, I applied for an ADA unit approximately 7 to 10 years ago and was approved, but was told that they didn't have any units available. Now, also now with Solid Properties where I rent, notifies customers to pay full rent due to delinquent payments from housing. Also, Solid Property has not been in compliance with the housing violations and the practices of unsafe living conditions. Inspections take place in approximately 6 minutes, and that consists of the kitchen and bathroom. Suitable housing exceeds the income, location, amenities, and qualification of HCV program participants. I would need hands-on assistance from your location. I thank you for your invitation and for addressing the function of the DC Housing Authority.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. I'm going to move on to Donna Towns. Ms. Towns, are you on the line?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Donna Towns, and thank you for this opportunity to express my concerns regarding what I've been going through for the past 5 years here at Park Morton. So let's begin. In 2017, my daughter moved from my apartment, and at the same time, and I tried to present the lease to the manager, Miss Barnes. Miss Barnes was on sick leave, so I had to go every week when the interim manager was there. The interim managers would not accept my daughter's lease, and I did this from May 2017 all the way until March 2017. So in February, the end of February, I did run into Ms. Barnes. She had returned from her sick leave, and this is why she was gone. So when she returned from sick leave, she removed my daughter on March
So on the 28th, February 28th, I gave Mr. Barnes my daughter's lease. On March 1st, 2018, she removed my daughter from the lease, and we had a conversation that she was also going to backdate the rent, but she never backdated the rent. And from the research, what's that called? Excuse me. From the documents in which I received, the net rent and the gross rent was 0. So I assumed at that time that she backdated the rent from May 2017 to 2018, but she did not. But she removed my daughter. We had a conversation that both the actions were supposed to occur at the same time, but it didn't. Okay, now I'm going to move. That's Ms. Barnes. Now I'm going to move forward to Ms. Barnes. Ms. Diallo. Ms. Diallo is the manager after Ms. Barnes, and she started her duty at Park Morning September 2018. And then at the first time I met her is when the ceiling in my bathroom collapsed because of faulty plumbing up top on the upper level. And so I've from September 2018 all the way up until May 2019, I've lived in mold conditions. And in the middle in February, March 2019, Ms. Barnes and a whole crew of her staff, I have documents and everything of the person. We signed a mandatory transfer agreement. It was handwritten. Okay, that didn't occur. So now Park Morton, which is the development that's under construction now for the Pole Park Road, the whole Park Morton side is under redevelopment. That's a better way of redevelopment. But there are only 4 units presently being housed at Park Morton today. And that's where I'm at. But let me go back. So this was in June of 2019 was the first phase of lead removal from the whole Park Morton apartments. This is the first phase. I'm in 620 Morton Street, right? So the whole time from August, September 2018 up until then, up until May 30th, on May 30, 2019, Ms. Barnes kept calling me continuously. Ms. Towns, come and sign this lease. We're going to move you to apartment 33. We're going to transfer your belongings up to 2023, apartment 33, so that we can fix the repairs in apartment 21. Apartment 21 is where I lived from 2009 until May 30, 2019, 10 years. My apartment was a very large apartment, and my apartment was filled with a lot of valuables and antiques and everything. So on May 30, 2019, I signed the lease. On May 31st, 2019, Ms. Diallo, instead of the maintenance workers, she called the police to remove me from the apartment, talking I was going to commit suicide, which is not the case. And then, so they removed me from my apartment, and then they were going to take me to jail or take me to the Cuckoo hospital because I'm threatening my life. There's a law on that. I don't have that. I don't have that paperwork. So she disposed of all of my property. I was illegally evicted, and this is what I'm saying. And I've gone to court and everything, but they didn't do anything because they based their decision on section 66-205. I didn't file a complaint within 6-month period, so my
Ms.
case
Downs,
was dismissed.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna
everything.
have to mute. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to, your time has expired. Thanks for giving us some background information, and we will look into it and follow up. Thank you so much. Patricia Malloy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can see me. My name is Patricia Malloy. I am a former resident of Lincoln Heights. I've only been away from Lincoln Heights for 7 months. I was a resident council president and the chair of the new community for Lincoln Heights. Commissioners and Director Donald, I heard when you said that Lincoln Heights is a choice neighborhood. When did you meet with the residents to let them know that you were applying for a choice neighborhood grant? Also, Lincoln Heights have 19 buildings that's getting ready to be demoed, to be torn down. Andre Gore, Stringfellow, and I think Mr. Thorne and some others, we had resident meetings. The families that should be relocated within in the property from these 19 buildings, relocation was supposed to move them. We had a PowerPoint, and it said that relocation would assist the residents in moving. That did not happen. A couple of residents moved last week. They had to move themselves. Some of them still haven't gotten their stuff out of the building. Also, I was relocated to the Strand under the new community initiative. We have a special voucher. We, as residents that moved from Lincoln Heights to the Strand, is trying to change our income. We're trying to report our income change. Management is telling us that we need to go back to housing, for housing to report our income change. That's not the case. We are supposed to report everything to management. Management said we are not. I tried to call the case manager, the housing specialist that I was given when I was relocated here. That number no longer exists. I'm asking Ms. Hammerer if you could please call me or email me to find out what is the accurate process. You have 23 residents here that we cannot change our income because the information we were given is not correct. And I really don't believe that this process is going the way it's supposed to. This is a new board. And I agree with a lot of people that have spoken. When Lincoln Heights have no representation, I'm going to continue to be their representation as long as I got breath in my body. I know housing don't like it because I've been told that management, the area managers, Ms. Brown, Ms. Watson, and Mr. Eve is telling residents to pay me no mind. That's wrong. I'm gonna continue to advocate for Lincoln Heights because you all are not trying to assist those residents. You put a manager over there, Ms. Hightower's doing the best she can, but you all are always beating up on her when she tried to do something right. Mr. East, you got the staff in Lincoln Heights so scared that they don't know which way to breathe. I'm being honest with you. I'm really being honest. But my concern today is when you made a decision to make Lincoln Heights a choice neighborhood, you made that decision on your own because I was still the leader. You never had a meeting with Lincoln Heights. You all today have not had a meeting with the residents of Lincoln Heights. You have not. And for you all to commit, I know you are a new board, but Lord have mercy. What goes around comes around. And I swear, I hope it never, none of you all, and Commissioner Skinner, I commend you on what you are doing. You're trying your best. I really commend you. But I don't like the way this is going. I am going to do something about it. I'm going to be in the media every day. I'm going to attend every board meeting until you do it right. honor your residents, honor the less fortunate. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malloy, for your comments. Christopher Wilson. Mr. Wilson, are you on the line?
I am on the line.
Perfect. You have 5 minutes, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you so much. I would first like to thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak, but I'll get right to it. My concern as a resident constituent and a housing choice recipient voucher is that I have had numerous issues when it came to the recertification process. There were numerous attempts that I've made at both the 1133 North Capitol and subsequently at the 203 N Street location when that satellite office was open to recertify as asked. However, I'm receiving correspondences after the date, after the deadlines, and although I've submitted it on numerous occasions, I ran to an issue where I had to take off from my duties with the Project Empowerment Program to ensure that this recertification process was complete. I had to go to the 203 N Street location after repeated calls and attempts. It took one of the workers there who appears to be, her name was Belinda Blunt. Ms. Blunt was very excellent in assisting me with the process and with the submitting the documentations again that I needed to submit in order to have that recertification process complete. However, I have no knowledge that that has been completed, only the receipt that my documents have, in fact, finally been in and scanned to Ms. Tammy Thomas, who is the worker or housing choice voucher specialist charged with my case. My concern with that is since my beginning of the process, or my inception in the program, I have yet to meet Ms. Thomas. I've been in the program for 3 years. She's been my specialist. I have not once met her, despite my numerous attempts, both over the phone as well as email attempts to reach out to her. She's been unresponsive, as many of the other housing choice specialists and individuals there at the department, at the housing, who are charged with case management. No one is taking calls, no one has responded. And this is, again, it's been my 3rd year as a participant in the program. Because of this failure to respond, I had submitted documentation to reduce my income. I have changes in my income that I tried to report where they were reduced so I would no longer have the obligation that I had. That documentation was not received, nor was it processed. It caused me to go into default, and now I'm having to enlist ERAP to assist me with the rents or the back portions, and it was a small amount. It's about $1,500 that I've contacted ERAP to assist me, which they should not have, because this amount should have been reduced with those changes in my income as I reported, but they were not. I have been also attempting to find resolve as it relates to the portability of my voucher. As I'm told, mine is partly supported by DC government. So the option for portability is uncertain or maybe unavailable. My concern for that is it puts us in a position where we're not able to seek or find affordable and safe housing in other entities where uh, these vouchers could be utilized. I am in essence asking or requesting that my local or partly supported voucher be in essence converted to a full federal voucher, as I have had no resolve with the housing authority as it relates to my case and my needs. I am certainly advocating for myself and for other residents, but I am, again, having no resolve with the housing authority, and I'm hoping that my voucher can again be converted to a fully supported HUD or federal voucher. That way, I'm not facing the same barriers that we are facing, those of us who are partly supported by the local program. As it of those, it appears to be those housing choice voucher specialists who are unresponsive or unavailable. Ms. Blunt and the other members of the team with the housing choice voucher program were available and had full knowledge and ability to process everything that needed to be processed. But I, in fact, was not able to utilize them and that team because of, again, me being partly supported by, I'm assuming it's the DC government and the local voucher program, which I'm not 100% certain what is the difference. Because when I initially was brought into the program, I was under the impression that I had a fully federal voucher, as I am a permanent supportive housing choice voucher recipient.
So, Mr. Wilson, thank you for providing us that information. We will make sure that someone within the program can get back in contact with you to give you the information that you need. We're going to now move on to our non-residents, and our non-residents have 3 minutes. First is Brianna Skipper. Ms. Skipper, can you unmute yourself? You have 3 minutes. If not, I'm going to move on to our next non-resident is Latrice Kipler. Ms. Kipler, are you still on the line? You have 3 minutes. *6.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you all for hearing me today. My name is Latrice Kibler. I've been on the list since 2008 when I found out I was pregnant when I was in Job Corps. And Lord and behold, I had twin sons and they both have autism. So I've come up to the Housing Authority several different times to try to get assistance. I had also went into the shelter and I was on a rapid I went through rapid rehousing, but because the vendor at the time had lost finances, they wound up leaving me on my own, and my rent increased beyond the money that I had available. So I was either going to go back into a shelter or move in with my best friend. And so I wound up moving in with my best friend. And the situation has become to the point where, you know, with all respect, my children are 13 now, and they get ABA therapy in the house and other things they need for their special needs. And I'm not able to meet my children's needs because I don't have a sufficient place to stay where they can get these services. And I just wanted to ask for any type of guidance or assistance to move forward so I can have a more affordable house for me and my children.
Yes, ma'am. We'll make sure that we have your information updated on the wait list. We are doing outreach. You should have been contacted by now. If you go back to 2009, we're kind of getting to that year. So we will make sure we have your information, that we follow up to update all of your information and tell you what we have available.
Okay, yes, because I am really scared of going back into a shelter. I've come a long way. My children are doing better now than they was when they was, you know, babies, because they couldn't walk and one couldn't talk. And I just want to keep on getting that therapy, you know, to make sure that they can be self-reliant.
Okay, we have your information, so we'll follow right up. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to Ebony Johnson. Ms. Johnson, I see that you're on. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ebony T. Johnson. I am homeless and I have been homeless for many years. I'm a single mother of 4 children, Michaela, Emo, LaShawna, and Mashana, 14, 20, 24, and 24. I'm providing this statement to tell the commissioners how broken the system is and how DCHA discriminates against homeless people. It needs to be fixed for me and many others who are homeless and suffering emotionally due to negligence. Almost 20 years ago, I put my name on the list for a housing voucher in July 2004 when DCHA deemed me eligible. I waited patiently for my name to rise to the top. In May 2016 and February 2019, I finally reached the top of the list. DCHA notified me to come in for eligibility interview for my voucher. I went on March the 1st, 2019 for orientation with Miss M. Teller and provided all documents that was asked of me. I even received a signed certificate from DCHA on April the 18th, 2019, that all information had been received. I never heard anything further from DCHA by mail, phone call, or email. Total silence. I called many times, no response. On November the 20th, 2020, I emailed Office of Fair Hearings complaining about the wait and not hearing back from DCHA. They treated my email as an appeal and set a hearing date. It took over 1 year for my hearing to take place due to the fact each time it was scheduled, a DCHA attorney stated they had just been assigned to the case and was not prepared for the hearing. In December 2021, there was a hearing. I won. The hearing examiner told DCHA to give me one more placement option. DCHA's lawyers failed to appeal. Instead, they had ex parte communications with the judge, which led to a second hearing in February of 2022. I won basically the same relief as the hearing, but I appealed because the hearing should have never been held. DCHA executive director took almost 4 months to decide the appeal. In June 2022, she agreed with me and reinstated the decision from December 2021. After that, DCHA did not give me a voucher. Instead, Ms. Sherry Smith offered me a public housing unit. I will not move to public housing because it's not safe for me and my children, and because I was approved for a housing voucher in March of 2019 and told that the briefing class was my next step to receiving my voucher. I'm desperately in need of my housing voucher as soon as possible. I've been told I've been at the top of the list for my voucher for some time now, but never seemed to get one. This system is broken, discriminates, and need to be fixed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for bringing those concerns to our attention. Last on our list for non-residents is Daniel Del Piego. Daniel, are you on? You can unmute. Hi, Daniel.
Hello. Happy New Year. Good afternoon to everyone. Welcoming the new board. My name is Daniel Del Piego. I work with Empower DC. I work with public housing residents around the city. A couple of things came up today that I'm hopeful about. I'm hopeful about the maintenance repairs that are to be done. However, I do want to flag a couple of concerns that came up last year. Often what we heard was if repairs were, major, it would result in people being relocated, sometimes through mandatory transfers. So I want to flag that as a concern, especially when we are trying to whittle down at the wait list. I'm just trying to wonder, I would imagine that there are many units that need significant repair and that people may be relocated either for a temporary time or permanently. So how is that going to work? What options will people have? The mandatory transfers can oftentimes be very impactful for people who have to pick up and move to new neighborhoods and just rearrange their lives. So wanted to flag that for the board. So thank you for that. The other piece that I was hearing, I think Ms. Hardiman Jones mentioned that some folks drop off calls because they are reached out to prior to see what their issue is and how can it be helped. That's great, and I commend that. Oftentimes, what I've heard from residents is that they feel that they're getting called for, like, why are you calling? Is the sense many people have. So what I would urge this board to do is to please ask for a list of how those folks who may not have shown up to the call, who were reached out to, how were those issues resolved? Were they actually called? Was there some resolution to their issue? I think that would be important, once again, to whittle away at this trust gap that exists between residents and the housing authority. I think that's it for right now. From what I heard, we want to be able to support and work together. I know I've been working with Miss Rosa. I know a couple of other folks. So I really hope that this year will be a good one. I mentioned at the end of the year what I thought was the saddest way. It's the same people coming back with the same issues. And we've started off the year like that. Again, many of the people bringing up some of the similar issues. So hopefully we can address that. Hopefully this board will take this serious, not saying you're not, but really fix some of these issues that are just not fair and really, cause some really horrible living conditions for people. So I thank you, and I will see you all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman, that concludes all of our public testimony.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank everyone who testified for the board today. We do take your comments seriously. We have someone, particularly for the rest, we have someone taking notes, and we will staff will follow up with all of you. And for the board, since this is our first meeting, and I think for many of you, first time getting a sense of what some of the issues are from the residents. And, clearly there's some sort of systemic issues that we have to focus on and deal with to bring us up to where we need to be. So it was a long meeting. I had said earlier again that I wanted to try to keep them shorter. So hopefully in the future, we will be able to do that. So are there any comments, reactions from the board before we close?
I do have one thing, Commissioner Harris. If we can just make a note, a lot of things that I've watched from the past and even today, it's just education. There's really, I can't stress any further on how our recipients, our residents, depending on what type of voucher they have, what type of housing bracket, if they don't know what they actually have, there's always going to be the same issues. Some people can't get what they want because of what they're on. There needs to be a better breakdown of everything, even with the partnerships that is causing the issue.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier about the communications and outreach and the need to really work with the communities. We had a couple of people talking about the properties that are going through major redevelopment, Lincoln Heights, Greenleaf, Barry Farms. And I feel we just got to do a better job in communicating, letting people know what's going on and keeping them up to speed.
I have a comment, Commissioner Burbridge. The turnaround times, when we hear all these complaints, I listen very carefully. Do we have a turnaround time deadline or something where if someone, just a suggestion, has not followed up, we won't hear this again next week or next month's meeting? Also, we need some sensitivity training for the management because a lot of it is lack of understanding, miscommunications, and recertifications. The problem is we're not holding management, it seems, accountable. If they need more training, let's give them that training because the things that we heard, of course, it was a problem before us, but we're here to resolve that. And let's give ourselves deadlines where we can say, this will be done by this time. And if not, then just a courtesy call to let the residents know we are still working on it and we apologize for the inconvenience, but we have it here and we're going to resolve it.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Silla. I was wondering if there is a different format or approach that we can take to this public comment process or portion, or whether it's actually legislated by law and there's nothing that we can do about it. It feels to me that there are probably a number of familiar faces, people who are advocating on behalf of other residents, and that we might do well to host special sessions, maybe ones that are a little different than the required listening sessions that go across the different quadrants of the district, but rather special sessions for our folks that are advocating on behalf of other residents so that we can reset our relationship with them, develop a rapport with them. It feels like there's a lot of mistrust. And so I wanted to know if there's an opportunity to rethink how we have these public comment portion.
Yeah.
I'd like to jump in. And so to say, first of all, particularly for our new commissioners, we serve 25,000 people easily, households. You're getting a small spattering of our residents, and I just want to be fair. And we do have some who come every month, even if we've met with them the day before, and there are several on here. I'm having notes from staff that we have. We do outreach, contrary to what Mr. Pialago said, to residents and to people who want to sign up to see if we can resolve their problem. Coming to a board meeting is not a place to resolve a problem that you're suffering with. If you feel like you absolutely cannot, and we're not responsive, we're not communicating, and you want to hold us to account for that, of course. But we're familiar with many of the people who do speak. And we have created, Commissioner Silla, I created an Office of the Ombudsman about a year ago, and that's still having a little bit of slow take up, but when calls and complaints come directly to me, I'm forwarding them. There's a quick turnaround time there. Commissioners bring residents to my attention. There's always a quick turnaround time. We're trying to stop being defensive and be on a little bit more proactive. We also are stepping up our resident engagement activities, and I've asked for a revised plan from our team so that we are reaching out to offer staff time on all resident council meetings if they wish for us, if we could have standing time so that we're touching every property at least every other month, and not just when we're doing big development activities and that have been driving things. We also are opening up to have ombudsman's office hours so that people know where to go. I think part of it is communication. Some of it, and I'm not going to be defensive or apologetic about this, is absolutely legitimate, where we don't get back quick enough, and people are frustrated. But quite frankly, even when calls come to me, I'm not the one that's going to go out in the middle of the night and unstop the toilet. I know who to contact, but I'm pushing back to our folks to say, and we're increasing our emergency responsiveness so that people know, and making sure that on each of the properties, and we've had these conversations with Commissioners Blackson and Burbridge about making sure we have backup plans, that we have calling phone trees. So all of this stuff we are doing. I think it will reduce some of the frustrated testimony that comes. It won't reduce all of it because some of it is just carries with us. But I just want to put things in perspective. We have 25,000, I think, households or so that we serve with vouchers, and we're about 6,000 in public housing. And so while you hear frustrations, and I'm not dismissing them because we take them all seriously, I just want you to put things in perspective. And then applaud yourselves for the votes that you took earlier today that will go to us being able to accelerate maintenance, right? We got 2 huge contracts that you pushed through, that you supported on, that will allow us to really step up our maintenance, as well as the ongoing development activities like Melvo and Henson Ridge. So there's a lot in motion. Everything can't happen immediately, but it's not that we're not putting forth major effort, I think, in ways that we haven't done before.
Can I say one last thing?
Yes.
I want to applaud you because I know since I have been with the Citywide Advisory Board and even as a commissioner, when I reach out, you always respond. Miss E always respond. And some of it could be that people, because of what happened in the past, don't know where to go to get the help that they need. So I hope that the Citywide Advisory Board can assist in reaching out and getting some of these calls and following up on them and making ourselves available so that the residents will realize there is change. But I appreciate you and I appreciate everyone in this room, and thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Silla, just to specifically answer your question, the requirement is that we have to have a public comment period or meetings. There's no precise way that we have to do that. So, again, we're going to, we're going to try to figure out how we can do it better and make it more effective and efficient.
And I wanted to say, as the family commissioner, I just wanted to commend Director Donald and Mr. Waller. Anytime I've had I deal with a lot of constituents all the time. I play many roles or wear many hats, so I'm always out and about in the community. So I hear a lot of different issues and concerns that residents have. And anytime I've reached out by email, in some extensive email to whatever the resident shared, I always get a great response, and Mr. Waller always follows up, and he always lets me know, he keep me informed of what's happening with that actual resident. And I've had resident feedback as well, thanking me and thanking DCHA for responding to their inquiry. So I just wanted to share. I know I'm a little quiet sometimes. I don't say too much, but my email carry a lot of weight, great weight. And any concern that a resident have as the family commissioner, I'm always here to hear you. And again, I'm Commissioner Denise Blackson, and I can be reached at dblackson@dchousing.org or look us up online. Just wanted to
Thank you,
share that.
Commissioner Blackson. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, if there's no further business, the next board meeting will be on Wednesday, February 8th at 1 p.m. Via WebEx, and the information will be found on our website at www.dchousing.org. Thank you, and the meeting is adjourned.
Hello? It's adjourned. Once they adjourn.